Important update about YouTube playlists. Hey everyone. We've received many messages asking why our YouTube playlists aren't showing up. Do we create YouTube playlists? Yes, we absolutely do. So why can't you see them? Honestly, we're not sure. We've been in contact with YouTube support for several months now, but we still haven't received a clear answer or solution. After much discussion, our team has decided to take matters into our own hands. We believe the issue might be related to the number of playlists we've created on a single channel, possibly too many. Our solution? We're launching 2 additional YouTube channels, giving us a total of 3. This way, we can organize our audiobooks better and avoid the playlist visibility issue in the future. This change only affects our YouTube audience. If you're a patron supporter, you can still access all our audiobooks by visiting the collection menu on Patreon. Thanks so much for your time and continued support. Happy listening. Kaido is really gentle. Does this mean I'm going to start living together with Kaido? A pleased smile curved on her lips. She softly said, Kaido, you're also in a state of mental exhaustion. You should rest now. Kaido, come, sleep next to me. No, you rest first. Kaido forcefully closed and then reopened his eyes, shaking his head. I need to check on Izuna first. He barely stood up, leaning on the wall, and left the room with unsteady steps. Watching his back, Yuri puffed her cheeks. Humphrey, what a fool. Then, uncontrollably, she rubbed her face against the pillow. It smells like Kaido. Yuri slowly closed her eyes and drifted into rest. When Kaido entered another room, Izuna was already sitting on the floor meditating to recover. He didn't make a sound to disturb him, just silently observed for a while before sighing in relief. Izuna, it's good you're okay. Hiss. He clutched his head, feeling increasingly unbearable pain and sluggish thoughts, and simply sat down to meditate. Another morning, Sasuke had already gone to the dojo for sword practice. In the Uchiha residence, a man, a soul, and a specter silently sat in the living room, sipping tea. However, Yuri kept giving Kaido and Izuna resentful looks. Damn it. Stupid Kaido. Why did you leave me? You'd rather stay in a room with that dead man. Leaving me all alone in the bedroom. So it's not only female ghosts who steal men. Kaido sweated profusely. I didn't do it. Don't talk nonsense. What are you thinking about? Stop. Stop. I just couldn't bear the pain any longer and had to recover my spirit with Izuna. Izuna ignored their silent battle and broke the silence first. What was that last dream about? Kaido added. Well, let's have the dream expertness Yuri explain to us. Yuri's expression returned to normal. She gently placed her teacup on the table and softly explained. Dreams are made up of free spiritual energy in the subconscious, generally uncontrollable. Yesterday's final mental space was likely a spontaneous psychic resonance between Kaguya Otsutsuki and that black creature. This indicates she can now reach beyond her seal into the outside world. From what I've observed, Kaguya and that dark entity share a common origin and are closely linked. Kaido continued. That creature is entirely made of malice and filth. If I'm right, it was created by Kaguya using her purely evil spiritual energy mixed with the world's filth. It's an existence that can't be completely killed. Chapter 32. For the next few days, Kaido just stayed at home to recuperate. Daily activities included eating, sleeping, having stare-downs with Yuri, and guiding Sasuke's secret technique practice. During this time, Sasuke also met his look-alike ancestor, Izuna. As Kaido expected, perhaps because of their resemblance or because Sasuke is the last descendant of the family, Izuna was very gentle with this fate-stricken young boy. He even took over part of Sasuke's training. He disagreed with Sasuke only learning ancient swordsmanship. He is still a ninja, he cannot fight in the way of a samurai. That's what Izuna said to Kaido. Kaido thought it made sense. Ninjas and samurais have different fighting styles, and Sasuke is undoubtedly a ninja. Moreover, Sasuke's family had vanished when he was young, and he hadn't received a complete Uchiha ninja education. It was perfect for Izuna, the most traditional Uchiha ninja, to provide him with the basics. Izuna was also a ninja skilled in sword fighting. Kaido hoped that under Izuna's guidance, Sasuke could integrate what he learned from a hidden mist village into his skills. Time flew, and a week later, Kaido and others had fully recovered. They were finally ready to summon Madara Uchiha. Using the blood relation between Izuna and Madara, this summoning was successfully completed. Aren't you Obito? Who are you? The awakened Madara looked at the unfamiliar Uchiha youth with a disdainful gaze. There's no Obito here. Please take care, I am Kaito Uchiha, Madara. Kaido met Madara's gaze unfazed, showing a friendly smile. But I guess the person you most want to see is him. As he spoke, he stepped aside to reveal Izuna standing behind him. Madara's dominating expression instantly crumbled. He widened his eyes at the familiar smiling face, his voice trembling slightly. Izuna. Brother. Izuna stepped forward quickly and hugged Madara tightly. It's me, long time no see, brother. What exactly is going on? Feeling the state of himself and Izuna, Madara was furious, his gaze stabbing back at Kaito standing aside. Has the Uchiha clan also produced someone as annoying as Tobirama Senju? It's not summoning, impure world reincarnation, Madara. Kaito smiled and waved his hand. It's just summoning, an ancient tradition of human wisdom. Humphrey, sweet talker. Madara scoffed. Trying to use me and Izuna, I will make you pay the price. As he spoke, his aura began to rise sharply, a whirlwind whipped up in the room, and the wooden windows and sliding doors started to shake. But I still appreciate your courage, youngster. Kaido's hair and clothes fluttered in the wind, and he spread his hands helplessly. You're taking this too seriously, Madara. Perhaps it's best you have a good talk with Izuna first. I won't disturb you further. After saying that, he calmly turned and left the room, making sure to close the door behind him thoughtfully. Meanwhile, Izuna also took Madara's hand to stop him from acting rashly, looking seriously into his eyes. The kid is right, brother. I have a lot to discuss with you. If that's the case. Madara's aura instantly subsided, but his gaze towards his brother became dangerous. I also have a lot to discuss with Izuna, like giving your eyes to me without saying a word and then dying quietly. I'm sorry, brother. Izuna apologized earnestly, then firmly defended his actions. But at that time, I was doomed anyway. And I always felt that my eyes enabling brother to see again was wonderful. I wanted brother to use my eyes to continue leading the clan. Izuna. Madara placed his hand on his brother's head firmly. You were my only brother. After losing you, the clan meant much less to me. Brother is really willful. Izuna's gaze also became dangerous. So brother still went on to establish Hidden Leaf Village with that bastard Hashirama, and in the end, died alone, leaving our clan to perish. Are you blaming me? Madara ruffled his brother's hair more harshly. I'm not blaming you. Izuna sighed helplessly. I just think brother took on too much. Whether it's world peace or war, that wasn't brother's responsibility. While the Uchiha brothers from the Warring States period were having an earnest conversation, Kaito went to the living room where Yuri was. Were you kicked out, Kaito? Yuri was lazily sitting by the coffee table, and as expected, she began to tease him upon seeing him. Don't say that, Yuri. Kaito sat down opposite her. I just didn't want to disturb their brotherly bonding time. Humphrey, always so stubborn. I'm just too considerate. The Uchiha brothers' conversation continued until late that night. When Kaito saw Madara again, the man who once looked down upon the world no longer had killing intent in his eyes. His mood didn't become despondent upon learning the truth, instead, he seemed somewhat excited. Because it's Izuna, I will believe everything he says is true. He simply stated. Although it renders my life's efforts futile, from another perspective, it's quite interesting, isn't it? Ha 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 ha. He laughed heartily. I thought there was no one else in the world besides Hashirama who could match me in battle. But if the so-called Otsutsuki truly exist, they will surely make my blood boil again. Young man. He looked earnestly at Kaito. I've told Izuna all I had to say. But before the Otsutsuki appear, I won't offer you any help. That's enough, Madara. Kaito sincerely smiled. I still thank you for your help. Humphrey. Madara was non-committal. Remember not to awaken me again until you've improved this technique. I won't be as kind as Izuna to accompany you in such trivial matters. With that, Madara used his power to shatter the paper he was bound to, returning to the Pure Land on his own accord. Kaito blinked, then curiously looked at Izuna. You and your brother have reunited, don't you need more time together, Izuna? There's no need. I'll suffice until the real enemy appears. Izuna's voice seemed much lighter than before. Let brother rest a bit longer. Chapter 33, Today, in the forest where the tree spirit leader, Mo, resides, various yokai continued to visit. Is everyone here? A plump man looked around. Yuri and Kaito haven't arrived yet. The woman with a voluptuous figure next to him responded. Really, that Yuri, she moved into Kaito's place a few days ago, didn't she? Ah, don't be jealous of me, Kiji. Yuri's voice arrived, followed by the fluttering of butterflies. A girl in colorful clothes and a young man in simple black attire arrived hand in hand. You've arrived. Really, you're not shy at all, Yuri. Kiji teased with a seductive smile. Yuri seemed unconcerned. You're the one. We're yokai. Why should we follow human conventions? Yuri's right. Another girl in red clothes with a cold face nodded. Really, Kori, you don't get the joke. Kiji looked at the girl in red somewhat helplessly. Kaito, ignoring the yokai women's nonsensical chatter, greeted everyone. Hello, everyone. Sorry, I'm not late, Am I? Everyone nodded in response. Now that everyone's here, Yuta, Saburo, Onikiri, Kori, Kichi, Yuri, and Kaido. Mo, who had been silent, spoke. I called you all here to discuss our next plan. Just following Mo's orders will do. Yuta, patting his plump belly, laughed heartily. We yokai aren't really good at strategy. Let's leave the planning to Mo and Kaido. We'll act according to the plan. Saburo, the short one, added. Soon, the others agreed as well. Hey, you're all too good at slacking off. Kaido complained helplessly. No choice. Saburo looked up at Kaido. In the many years before Kaido's arrival, we made no significant progress. Thanks to you, the situation has improved. Kaido is really smart. Don't be modest, our current situation is already quite good. Yuri also agreed. Kaido didn't overly humble himself and proceeded to explain in detail the intelligence he had gathered recently and the action plans he had prepared. Yokai tend to be straightforward and brutal, their thoughts do not align with humans. They lack the patience for detailed planning and strategizing. Before Kaido's arrival in Ama, their only plan was to wait. Should the Otsutsuki reappear, they would stake their lives to battle them. If not, then there would be nothing to worry about. Since Kaido's arrival and his understanding of history, he actively proposed a series of action plans, which granted him significant influence. The 7 yokai gathered were the oldest and strongest in Ama, essentially the 7 leaders of the yokai. Mo, a tree spirit that appeared even before the ancient times. As tree spirits rarely move, Mo chose to stay to protect Ama during the last war and is one of the few great yokai that survived. Yuta, the leader of the Tanuki clan. Due to the Tanuki clan's strong transformation and camouflage abilities, they survived the war as intelligence officers. Saburo, the youngest of the famous Kama at Ache brothers from the war. His 2 brothers perished, and he is the only yokai who survived that war. Onikiri, a Tsukumogami of swords. A famous sword left by a warrior who died on the battlefield, which later became a Tsukumogami after being brought to Ama, now one of the strongest yokai in combat. Kori, originally a Higanbana, red spider lily, from Yami, the underworld. She escaped the catastrophe when Kaguya Otsutsuki destroyed the underworld using the god tree, the only yokai born in Yami that survived. Kichi, a spider yokai. Spider women, usually known as Joragamo in human legends. Although born after the war, inheriting stories from her predecessors, Kichi became one of the few yokai still known among humans today. It wasn't really a battle. That was just a fragment of Kaguya Otsutsuki's consciousness, not comparable to her real self. Kaido clarified. And the one who attacked us was that strange entity named Black Zetsu. According to Kaido, if the human organization known as Akatsuki progresses smoothly, Kaguya Otsutsuki will soon descend upon our world. A hidden mist village said with a serious expression. We must prepare for battle. Saburo, with his normally cute face, suddenly turned fierce. Kaguya Otsutsuki, I will avenge my brothers. Everyone, be cautious. We might face more than just Kaguya Otsutsuki. Mo warned with a grave expression. Don't forget, Kaguya wasn't alone when she came to this world 1,000 years ago. There was a man named Ishiki Otsutsuki who worked with her, fighting side by side. But wasn't Ishiki Otsutsuki killed by Kaguya later on? Saburo looked at Mo, puzzled. Ishiki Otsutsuki might not have truly died. Kaido took over the conversation. Although Kaguya killed him after achieving victory to monopolize the chakra fruit, we must still prepare thoroughly in case that man could also resurrect. What a hassle. Yuta patted his belly, looking worried. Our collective strength as yokai has declined too much compared to 1,000 years ago. That's why we need to expedite the resurrection plan. Kaido continued. For the Shikigami project, I'll be heading to the human world soon, and I hope some yokai can join me to add fuel to the resurrection plan. We indeed need more powerful beings. Mo agreed. If those great yokai could be successfully resurrected, our chances of winning would greatly increase. So, proceed as you've planned, Kaido. I will, Mo. Kaido nodded. I hope you can select some yokai skilled in hiding and spreading messages, to revive the legends of the great yokai among humans. Chapter 34, the resurrection plan Kaido mentioned was a contingency prepared by Mo at the start of the war 1,000 years ago. Yokai, unlike humans or other creatures, fuse their soul with their body during their transformation into yokai, causing them to completely dissipate upon death. Mo, perhaps due to his plant nature, is more calm and thoughtful than other great yokai and not overly proud. Before the war started, he suggested that yokai leave a bit of their original yokai power with him to prevent total annihilation. Unfortunately, most yokai found this unnecessary at the time, too proud to believe in their defeat. In the end, only a few yokai close to Mo reluctantly complied. What the yokai didn't expect was their devastating defeat in the war. Even their forced cooperation with humans couldn't turn the tide. Kaguya Otsutsuki, having consumed the chakra fruit, became an immortal being with astonishing combat strength. Despite her lack of extensive combat experience, her coordination with Ishiki Otsutsuki made it impossible for yokai and humans to find any opportunity to win. Nearly all yokai and humans involved in the direct combat perished, with only the swiftest Saburo escaping back thanks to his brother's cover. Faced with such dire circumstances, Mo, remaining in Ama, was powerless and could only recall all yokai and completely go into hiding. While the few great yokai who left a bit of their original power were truly dead, resurrection with just a bit of yokai power was incredibly difficult. Even after 1,000 years of Mo's nurturing, little progress was made. After learning about this situation, Kaido proposed an alternative plan, using legend amplification to accelerate the resurrection process. He first thought of using the tailed beasts, undoubtedly the most legendary creatures in the shinobi world. Among the yokai who left their original power were a cat yokai and a fox yokai, somewhat similar to the Two Tails and Nine Tails tailed beasts. It's highly possible that the Sage of Six Paths referred to some yokai legends when creating the nine-tailed beasts. Thus, Kaido had yokai discreetly spread some tales about the tailed beasts in the shinobi world. For example, depicting the Two Tails as a cat yokai that can control spirits and the Nine Tails as a fox yokai capable of moving mountains and seas. As the tailed beasts were the ultimate weapons of the villages, few truly understood them, not even their Jinchuriki. So, these tales quickly gained traction, recently being accepted as fact. Kaido then used a curse to link the cat and fox yokai with those two-tailed beasts. Although they could only live by attaching to the tailed beasts for now, who says they can't make the tailed beasts their subordinates in the end? Though challenging, it wasn't impossible. What surprised Kaido was the already abundant legends surrounding the Great Tengu and Crow Tengu, deeply connected to the Uchiha clan. The Uchiha clan's ultimate dujutsu, Susanoo, often takes the form of a Great Tengu or Crow Tengu in its complete state. Unfortunately, the rarity of the Mangekyo Sharingan didn't contribute much to increasing the legend's reach. But Kaido made many efforts to spread their stories far and wide, even having their statues erected at the entrance of the most famous temple in the Land of Fire, Ozone. The benefits of these actions were clear. Now, the original powers of these few yokai placed in the Celestial Towers array within Ama have ignited their life flames. Now that yokai's existence has been discovered by enemies, Kaido is even more determined to fuel the fire, planning to create more remarkable stories to spread the presence of yokai more widely among humans. After finalizing the action plan, Kaido prepared to head to the shinobi world. Before doing so, he sought out Sasuke for a conversation. Over time, Sasuke had made significant progress under everyone's guidance, especially with Kaido Uchiha filling in the systematic family education gaps, allowing Sasuke's strength to leap forward. He even made an entry into mastering spiritual power techniques. Unexpectedly, he ultimately declined the promise to see his parents again. "I want to show my mom and dad how I've grown up completely," he said. Kaito Uchiha and Kaido Uchiha both showed their appreciation. When Kaito Uchiha asked if Sasuke would like to accompany him to Hidden Leaf Village, Sasuke remained silent for a long time before hesitantly shaking his head. "Although I really want to take action myself and make those involved pay," Sasuke said, clenching his fist, holding back something. "But I know my time is running out." He looked at Kaido Uchiha with determination. "I must grow quickly to defeat that guy Itachi." He then confidently smiled. "And Uncle's plan, saving the world and such, I want to make the most dazzling performance, making the world praise the name of Uchiha." "Well done." Kaito Uchiha patted Sasuke's shoulder. "Sasuke has matured," he added. "If you had insisted, I would have taken you with me. But honestly, you wouldn't have been of much help to the mission." Sasuke just hummed in response, without any argument. "Making choices, focusing on a more important future, I'm very pleased." Kaito Uchiha encouraged. "For this mission, my main goal is to get the Uzumaki clan sealing technique data. With that, the new curse mark I promised you will soon be completed." "Ah, I'll be waiting," Sasuke said somewhat happily. "I'll also unlock the Mangekyo Sharingan as soon as possible, so I won't miss your next action again." "Don't rush," Kaito Uchiha reminded. "In the cultivation of spiritual power techniques, mindset is very important. Impatience won't yield good results." "I understand." Sasuke nodded in agreement. After arranging things with Sasuke, Kaido Uchiha went to find his read-as best friend written as means of transportation, Gyur. "Kuokikaku. Kaido, I'm going to break off our friendship." Gyur was very displeased. "You haven't come to play with me these days, and now you come asking for help. Don't be so petty, Gyur." Kaido Uchiha didn't mind the Alyokai's anger, smiling gently. "After all, we're best friends who grew up together, Gyura will definitely help me, right? Who grew up with you? Gyura was even more irritated. I only learned how to grow bigger after meeting you. Don't sweat the small stuff. Kaito Uchiha stroked Gyura's feathers. Ah, your feathers have become much prettier. Of course, I've been taking good care of them. Gyura said proudly. Kaito Uchiha casually mentioned. Since that's the case, you should show off more in front of people, maybe you'll even become a legend. Gyura's eyes sparkled, seemingly helpless. I can't believe you, but since we're best friends, I'll go with you. Chapter 35, Miss Chiri. Kaito finally visited the Great Hall of the castle tower guarded by Chiri Uchiha. Kaito. Upon seeing Kaito, Chiri Uchiha immediately made her presence known. I'm planning to make another trip to Hidden Leaf Village. Miss Chiri, would you like to join me? Kaito directly stated his intention. You haven't left this place for a long time, would you like to go out and see? I understand what you intend to do. Chiri Uchiha looked at the young man with a gaze full of affection. It should be done, at least we need to retrieve what belongs to the Uchiha clan. Miss Chiri, please don't look at me with those eyes, I'm already over 20 years old. Kaito felt somewhat uncomfortable. So, Miss Chiri, would you like to go back with me? This might be our last visit to Hidden Leaf Village. Kaito has really grown up. Chiri Uchiha did not let him off easily. I still remember the first time we met, how cute you were. Of course. I was only 3 years old then, the peak of cuteness. Kaito shamelessly accepted the compliment. It's also thanks to Kaito, otherwise, I would have dissipated long ago. Where, I am the one who should thank Miss Chiri for your companionship and encouragement. I didn't do much. As the topic reached this point, Kaito couldn't help but recall the past. It was an abandoned old house located in a secluded part of the clan area where 3-year-old Kaito ran to avoid his father's scolding. There, he saw a woman he had never seen before, standing in the house, enveloped in solitude. Who is Big Sister? How come I've never seen you in the clan before? The child, with tears still in his eyes, curiously looked at the woman, awakening her thoughts. She slowly turned her head, didn't answer, just stared blankly at the child's clear, bright eyes. After a while, her expressionless face strained into a smile. The young Kaito didn't mind, instead, he was happy to sense a bit of kindness and started talking to the silent big sister about his troubles non-stop. Kaito's birth had brought misfortune, his weak and sickly mother died from exhaustion after giving birth to him. His father harbored resentment, never looking at him directly. Fortunately, there was an older sister in the family, over a decade his senior, who didn't blame him for their mother's death like their father did but instead was very compassionate towards him. So, until that day arrived, he didn't feel anything was wrong. Anyway, he didn't like that cold and rigid old man. With his sister's care, other kind elders in the clan, and a few good friends, he could live happily every day. Everything took a downturn after he began trying to practice ninjutsu. It wouldn't have been much of an issue if it was just due to having too little chakra to become a ninja, as there weren't a lack of such individuals in the clan. The key issue was that Kaito's chakra-insulating physique was too rare, something that had never occurred before. Because it was so unusual, everyone in the clan became aware of this fact. Since then, he began receiving odd looks from other clan members. His friends stopped playing with him, preferring to mock him instead. And the adults' looks of pity or disdain made him fearful, nearly afraid to leave the house. His father, Uchiha, as a respected elder in the clan, couldn't stand the sympathy and pity from others, let alone his son becoming such a well-known useless person. So, he stopped ignoring his child and grew more hateful, scolding him now and then. This was still moderated because Mikoto Uchiha, who had risen in status due to her engagement to the next clan leader, firmly protected her brother, otherwise, it would have been worse. Chiri Uchiha was the only person who showed kindness to Kaito during that time, prompting him to confide in her. After their first meeting, Kaito often sneaked into the abandoned house to spend time with Chiri Uchiha. Though the elder sister never spoke to him, he felt a long-lost sense of relaxation. Over time, Chiri Uchiha gradually changed. Her expression became less rigid, and her smiles more tender, much like the mother Kaito imagined. Then one day, she spoke. "Don't be disheartened, Kaito." She gently told the boy in front of her, upset from seeing his friends practice ninjutsu. "You possess a power others do not, a unique talent. But I don't have any talent, big sister, you don't need to comfort me." Kaito responded gloomily. The woman reached out to touch his head. "I'm not lying to you, because only you can see me." "How is that possible?" Kaito was skeptical. Chiri Uchiha softly said. "I have been dead for a long time, now just a ghost." "Are you afraid, Kaito?" "No." Kaito shook his head vigorously. "Miss Chiri is so kind, even as a ghost she is a good ghost, she wouldn't harm me." Is that so? You're really sweet, Kaido. Cheery Uchiha smiled tenderly. So, Kaido, there's no need to envy others. You have a talent they never possessed. I was about to dissipate, but it's because I stayed near you that I've recovered. Really? Kaido's eyes twinkled. I knew it, I am not worthless. Afterward, Kaido entered a new phase of life. He became extremely confident, no longer caring about others' views, even believing he was destined for great things. He proudly told others he could see ghosts, but apart from his sister, no one believed him, leading to many jokes. From being deemed worthless, he was now labeled a liar. Despite this, Kaido was unshaken, continually believing in himself with encouragement from Cheery Uchiha. However, as he grew older, he became completely marginalized within his clan. Apart from his elder sister, Kaido, no one else paid him any mind. Even though he was smart enough to see the clan's awkward situation within Hidden Leaf Village, no one listened to him. A person without power doesn't have the right to be heard. Kaido deeply understood this. Although he believed in his talent, he couldn't continue to wait aimlessly. He planned to travel outside, knowing that talent without a method was useless for gaining strength. He had to find his own path to becoming stronger. Fortunately, fate was on his side. Before he could embark on his travels, a butterfly spirit accidentally entered his dream. From then on, he saw a whole new world. Kaido, brought back from his memories by Cheery Uchiha's unchanged face over the years, again suggested. Miss Cheery, come with me this time. I might need your help. Alright. Cheery Uchiha finally agreed. Maybe it's good to make a final decision. Chapter 36. After everything was prepared, Kaito set off with Cheery Uchiha and Izuna Uchiha on Gyure. The yokai required for the resurrection plan also dispersed, secretly infiltrating the shinobi world to start their operations, all the while maintaining their cover. Their journey kept them high above the clouds, except for occasional landings in uninhabited areas for rest. They arrived near Hidden Leaf Village, in a forest close to the Land of Fire, without alarming anyone. After allowing Gyure to roam freely, the trio stood atop the tall trees, looking towards Hidden Leaf Village from a distance. It's been 10 years since I've been back here. Seems like a lot has changed. Kaido commented, shading his eyes with his hand as he observed the bustling village below. Cheery Uchiha and Izuna Uchiha remained silent, each absorbed in their own thoughts. Cheery Uchiha appeared to struggle with mixed feelings towards the somewhat unfamiliar yet familiar landscape before her. In contrast, Izuna Uchiha frowned at the sight of the Hokage rock, clearly displeased with the memorial to the Senju brothers. From now on, we'll need to move with even greater stealth. Kaito suggested. I plan to directly infiltrate the Uchiha clan area and get settled. That should work. Hidden Leaf Village's protective barrier is hardly a challenge for Kaito. Cheery Uchiha agreed with a nod. Izuna Uchiha, who harbored no affection for Hidden Leaf Village, voiced his irritation. It's all because you've been too slow. If I could fully utilize my power, we could just barge in directly. Haha, sorry, all my fault. Kaito replied dryly, brushing off the criticism. But, storming in isn't exactly your style, is it, Izuna? Humphrey, let's stop the chatter. Izuna Uchiha replied, still visibly upset. Let's see what you can manage. Kaito internally questioned his own capabilities, feeling somewhat helpless. He had no intention of causing a major disturbance in Hidden Leaf Village. His goal was merely to discreetly secure some advantages and eliminate certain individuals quietly, not to attract widespread attention. Avoiding unnecessary conflicts was preferable since a major incident would inevitably draw the attention of Hidden Leaf Village as shinobi. Without a significant reason, Kaito preferred not to engage in pointless battles. However, Kaito didn't argue further with Izuna Uchiha, focusing instead on ensuring the success of his plan. So, I'll have to inconvenience you, Miss Cheery, and you, Izuna, for a while. After Kaito formed hand seals, Izuna Uchiha and Cheery Uchiha rapidly shrank into two small paper figures perched on his shoulders. Hurry up and get moving. The paper figure of Izuna commanded, slapping Kaito's ear sharply. Alright. Kaito conceded, urging them to hold tight. He then used a paper seal on himself to conceal his presence and bypassed the patrolling shinobi, heading toward the Naka River area. According to Sasuke, the Uchiha clan was relocated near the Naka River after the Nine Tails incident. That area, being on the edge of the village, allows us easy access. Kaito explained as they advanced swiftly. There's a shrine built by our clan near the river, the Naka Shrine, where we can take shelter. The Naka Shrine? Cheery Uchiha's voice emerged, revealing her interest. It secretly houses a stone tablet passed down from the Sage of the Six Paths, accessible only to clan members with the Mangekyo Sharingan. Oh, I wasn't aware of that. Kaito admitted, intrigued. What does the tablet say? The tablet outlines the conditions for the Sharingan's evolution. Only those with the requisite eyes can decode more of its contents. I discovered the method to unlock the eternal Mangekyo Sharingan there. Uchiha added. That's why I gave my eyes to my brother. It looks like that tablet might be problematic. Kaido remarked, puzzled. I doubt a sage of the Six Paths would leave behind such instructions that could potentially incite fratricide. Who knows? Uchiha didn't seem overly concerned about the matter. Or to put it another way, ever since Kaido awakened Chiri Uchiha from the Pure Land, he had already encountered so many bizarre pieces of information. Even if he were told now that the stone tablet passed down from the ancestors of the Uchiha had issues, he wouldn't be too surprised on the surface. As for his feelings, well, he was quite annoyed. Of course, he was just angry that the clan had been deceived, but he didn't feel there was anything wrong with giving his eyes to his brother. Miss Chiri, we're approaching the barrier. Kaito reminded. No problem. Kaido didn't stop. We don't have any chakra fluctuations right now, so the barrier won't react. He then increased his speed again, fleeting like a vanishing shadow, expertly avoiding the denser patrol routes of the Leaf Shinobi and successfully sneaked into the Naka Shrine. Upon entering the shrine's main hall, Kaido, without waiting for Chiri Uchiha's reminder, accurately located the entrance to the basement through sensing. Once in the basement, Kaido's spiritual power ignited a blue flame in his hand, illuminating the underground space, and he immediately saw the stone tablet. His expression became odd again. I can see everything written on it. He first tossed the spiritual flame to hover in the air, then used a spell to restore Uchiha and Chiri Uchiha to their normal sizes, and read aloud the entire contents of the tablet to them. The Supreme Deity sought peace, divided the forces of yin and yang, opposing forces that, when combined as one, gave birth to all things in existence. About this, my brother has already told me. Uchiha said. It was after seeing the contents of this tablet that he sought the power of Senju Hashirama, eventually awakening the Rinnegan. It feels very strange. Where does this sense of incongruity come from? Kaito stroked his chin. Is the condition too specific? Apart from Madara Uchiha and Senju Hashirama, other Uchiha and Senju members couldn't possibly achieve it. His curiosity piqued, he directly moved closer and squatted in front of the tablet, completely absorbed in studying it. Kaido is still the same. Once he finds something of interest, he becomes completely engrossed in it. Chiri Uchiha, somewhat helplessly, started talking to Uchiha as they watched Kaido's engrossed figure, but it's precisely because of this that he has been able to grow to his current level without anyone teaching him. After all, those traditions about the ancient Onmyoji are too profound and complex. Ordinary people might find it difficult to grasp. Humphrey, the Uchiha have never lacked geniuses. Uchiha said proudly, though there was a hint of admiration in his eyes. But, this kid is indeed not bad. Chapter 37, Kaido delved into the stone tablet for a while but couldn't decipher it, and reluctantly decided to focus on the task at hand. I can't figure it out, so I might as well get down to business. He stood up, brushed off his clothes, and spread a stack of small paper figures on the ground. Attach. With a hand seal from Kaido, the small paper figures began to twitch and then slowly stood up. Go. Have a good look around. As he changed the seals with his hands, the paper figures quickly scattered in different directions, disappearing from the basement in an instant. Miss Chiri, I've sent the paper Shikigami to infiltrate the interior of the Leaf Village. Kaito said. The Uchiha, Senju, and Uzumaki were once renowned clans in the shinobi world, leaving behind various jutsu, sealing techniques, and documents, most of which should be in the Leaf now. How sad. Uchiha said mockingly. The village that Senju Hashirama built for peace, and the two brothers served as the first and second Hokage, yet they couldn't even maintain their family's reputation? Well, there was nothing that could be done about it. Senju Dobirama had no say in the selection of the third Hokage. Kaito speculated. The other clans in the village wouldn't just watch the Senju clan hold the Hokage position forever. This is evident from the fact that he didn't take a clan member as a disciple. Without the protection of the Hokage, the Senju clan suffered greatly in the wars, and he had no choice but to let his clan members abandon their surname. That makes sense. Izuna sneered. After all, the Senju clan is special in this village. Other families might survive in their time of weakness, but the Senju couldn't. Yes, Senju Hashirama was too powerful, so powerful that everyone feared him. And the destruction of the Uchiha clan, the fuse was with Senju Dobirama. He too was afraid of another Uchiha emerging. Kaido narrowed his eyes. Just as mortals may worship the gods, they also deeply fear the gods' incomprehensible power. Humphrey, a despicable and shameless traitor, trash Senju Dobirama. Uchiha bristled at the mention of Senju Dobirama. However, Kaido felt that as the Uchiha clan's former second-in-command, who had long opposed Senju Tobirama. He was actually the same type of person as Senju Tobirama. Of course, he couldn't say that out loud. It wouldn't be good to provoke the senior to explode on the spot. I'll also go out for reconnaissance, Kaido. Chiri Uchiha suddenly suggested. As long as I maintain the form of a ghost, others won't be able to see me. Besides, Izuna is completely unfamiliar with the leaf, and Kaido is not a shinobi, only I can quickly locate the target. Miss Chiri? Kaido looked at Chiri Uchiha in surprise. Although it might waste some time, my paper Shikigami will find it. No, Kaido. Chiri Uchiha gently shook her head. You don't really understand the habits of shinobi, only I can ensure no oversight. After a moment of thought, Kaido could only reluctantly agree, then okay, thank you for your hard work. He formed another seal, releasing Chiri Uchiha from the paper figure and returning her to a ghostly state. Please be careful, Ms. Chiri. I will, don't worry. Chiri Uchiha then floated up through the floor above and began her reconnaissance. Miss Chiri also had equal love for the village and the clan. Although the sudden appearance of many Mangekyo Sharingan within the Uchiha caused panic in the leaf, leading to internal strife in the Uchiha. Kaito spoke in a somewhat complex tone. But she only developed the extraordinarily powerful Genjutsu called Izanami to defeat those who abused Izanagi, quelling the internal strife. She didn't expect that even though the Uchiha suffered great losses in the internal strife, the fear and suspicion in the leaf would not easily disappear. In the end, Miss Chiri was assassinated by the leaf's higher-ups in collaboration with some in the clan who were eager for power and profit. She must have felt very resentful. Kaito said regretfully. She was betrayed by the clan she wanted to protect. TCH, it shows that since joining the leaf, there have been more and more fools in the clan. Izuna remarked on the other side. As time passed, Kaido's paper Shikigami had spread throughout every corner of the leaf village. Due to the small size of the paper figures, the absence of chakra fluctuations, and their ability to blend into the environment at any time, they went undetected by anyone. Meanwhile, in the Hokage's office within the Hokage building, the atmosphere was tense. The fifth Hokage, Tsunade, was silently glaring at the three members of the Leaf's advisory council. Old fogies living off past glories. She cursed them fiercely in her mind. Faced with the Hokage's anger, the three elderly council members showed no sign of backing down. Tsunade, you shouldn't have let the Jinchuriki leave the village at such a critical time. Hamura Midokado squinted at Tsunade. It's too risky to entrust the Jinchuriki to Jiraiya alone without knowing the exact strength of the Akatsuki. If it's just for teaching the Jinchuriki, it can still be done within the village. Koharu Utain added. Enough with the Jinchuriki, Jinchuriki. Tsunade exclaimed angrily. The kid's name is Naruto Uzumaki. And Jiraiya has confirmed that the Akatsuki's next attack will be in 3 years. Humphrey. Denzo Shimura, who had been silent until now, spoke up. Such uncertain information cannot be taken as a basis. Losing the Nine Tails would cause a huge loss to the village. Who will take responsibility then? Tsunade struggled to contain her rage. Even if the Akatsuki plans to attack Naruto during this time, it's still better to leave him with Jiraiya. The leaf is in a vulnerable state right now, and we must ensure that the enemy doesn't cause trouble here. Jiraiya and the others have unpredictable movements and can always use the summoning jutsu to go to Mount Mayabaku, so there shouldn't be much danger. Denzo's sole visible eye gleamed as he stepped forward and stared at Tsunade. Jiraiya is too unreliable. The Jinchuriki should be secretly handed over to me, so he can be completely hidden. Upon hearing this, Tsunade could no longer hold back her explosive anger. She slammed her hand on the desk, shattering it, and yelled. Enough with the nagging. I am the Hokage now. Chapter 38, the discussion in the Hokage's office, of course, ended on a sour note. Since Naruto had already been taken away by Jiraiya, the three advisors expressing their disapproval was already too late. Or rather, they knew Tsunade wouldn't heed their advice on this matter. Still, they felt compelled to make the trip, as doing so would force her to compromise on other matters. Lady Tsunade, are you alright? The Hokage's secretary, Shizune, was tidying up while looking worriedly at Tsunade, who still wore a scowl. I'm fine. Tsunade waved her hand dismissively and stood up to walk to the window. Those old geezers are really stubborn. Her tone was still irritable. Relying on their seniority, all spoiled by that old man, Hiruzen. He really left me a mess to clean up. You've worked hard, Lady Tsunade. Shizune finished tidying up and stood respectfully behind Tsunade. Tsunade's expression softened as she gazed out at the village. This is my duty as the Hokage. To protect the village that her grandfather loved so dearly and to fulfill the dreams of Hashirama and Tobirama. This was her goal when she took on the role of Hokage. Lady Tsunade. Shizune, looking at Tsunade's determined silhouette, was full of admiration. "You will surely protect the village. You will indeed become a great Hokage, Lady Tsunade." Meanwhile, the three advisors were slowly walking through the corridors of the Hokage building. They were feeling somewhat irritated too. Tsunade is becoming more and more unreasonable, showing no respect for her elders. Hamura Midokado complained. "We, as the Hokage's advisors, offer our suggestions, and she must consider them seriously. Tsunade is not like Hiruzen after all." Koharu Uchiha sighed. "We have no understanding with her." Denzo Shimura, with his lone eye devoid of emotion, glanced at his colleagues and sneered inwardly. These two old fools had lost the bearing of a shinobi after years of comfortable living. Just talk and no action, worthless. It seems that the future of the leaf can only depend on me. Only I can save this increasingly decaying village. Therefore, I must become the Hokage. Unbeknownst to them, as they moved, several small paper figures suddenly appeared on the ground and quietly attached themselves to them, disappearing without a trace afterward. At that moment, in the Nakashrine's basement, Kaido, who had been meditating, suddenly opened his eyes. "Denzo Shimura, that old bastard. Absolutely insane. What's wrong?" Sensing the faint anger in Kaido, Izuna spoke up. "It's unbelievable," Kaito said grimly. "That damn old man Denzo has transplanted 11 Sharingan into himself." "That Denzo? Hiruzen comrade?" Izuna frowned deeply. "But how did he manage to do it?" It's no wonder Izuna was no longer focused on being angry because the situation Kaido described was incredibly astonishing. In his era, while the Sharingan of the Uchiha clan was coveted by many, no one had ever succeeded. Without the Uchiha's bloodline, one would be cursed by the power of the Sharingan. This meant that even if someone managed to transplant it forcibly, they couldn't utilize its full potential. Hearing about Kakashi Hatake from the Hatake clan successfully transplanting a Sharingan was already rare enough. He had thought maybe it had something to do with the will of the Sharingan's original owner. But now, what was he hearing? 11 Sharingan. It was utterly inconceivable. Kaido frowned, formed hand seals, and closed his eyes. "I need to investigate this carefully." After a while, he opened his eyes. His right eye is a Mangekyo Sharingan, and on his right arm, there are 10 normal Sharingan. It's because he transplanted some sort of highly vitality Yang attribute special cells into his right arm, neutralizing the Yin attribute power of the Sharingan. His expression was a mix of amusement and disbelief. Those cells, after much thought, could only come from Hashirama Senju. "Ha ha 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 ha." Izuna burst into laughter. "Hashirama, huh? He's got what he deserved. It's just too hilarious." It was understandable when his brother used his powers, as they were equally matched opponents. But it was laughably absurd to be desecrated by future generations after his death. However, as he laughed, his expression darkened again. And he coldly said, "So, those are the spoils of war when the Uchiha clan was annihilated? Such audacity. Kid, when do you plan to act? Please be patient for now, Izuna-san." Kaido bowed slightly. "I must first obtain the other items before taking action against that old man, otherwise, it would alert the enemy." "Humphrey, I'll listen to you for now." Izuna had no objections. "I'll join you when the time comes. We must make that bastard pay a sufficient price. However, if we want to retrieve the intact eyes, we need to prepare well." Kaido mused. "Izanagi, huh?" Izuna caught on, then his face darkened. "Indeed troublesome. I have a plan," Kaito said with a steely determination. "I'll make him hand over the Sharingan willingly." "Oh? Then I'll look forward to it." Izuna showed an eager expression. Kaido didn't specify what actions he would take next, and they fell silent, waiting for more information and Izuna's return. Afterward, through the investigation by the paper human familiars and Izuna, Kaido had some gains. The ninjutsu and archives of the Uchiha and Senju clans were mostly stored in the Hokage building's library. Though the place was heavily guarded, instructing the paper human familiars to silently copy a set wasn't a difficult task for Kaido. After the copying, he tampered with all parts originally belonging to the Uchiha, planning to thoroughly destroy them when leaving. As for the sealing techniques of the Uzumaki clan, they were ultimately found in Denzo Shimura's possession. Kaido could only marvel at Denzo Shimura. True to his reputation, he sent out more paper human familiars to follow his movements and was astounded by his collections. Including the Sharingan, Hashirama cells, and various clans' ninjutsu and secret techniques, it was indeed a sight to behold. It showed how many despicable deeds that mad old man had done in secrecy. Humphrey. Truly fitting for a disciple taught by that trash. Just as despicable and shameless. Izuna couldn't help but curse after hearing Kaido's story. Chapter 39, Tobirama Senju was quite successful in teaching his disciples. Kaido remarked with a deep implication. All 6 of them perfectly inherited his will, including our Uchiha clan's own Kagami Uchiha. Oh? Izuna was somewhat surprised. He even took a disciple from the Uchiha clan? I guess it was his way of subtly dividing the Uchiha clan. Kaito speculated. Although Kagami Uchiha died early, he was praised by the third Hokage as an Uchiha who was not constrained by narrow clan ideologies and perfectly inherited the will of fire, influencing several generations within our clan. Narrow-minded, huh? Izuna scoffed. Such high-sounding rhetoric, but this narrative has always set belief and the Uchiha against each other from the start. It's because the Uchiha were too prominent, especially after the Senju clan faded away. Kaito nodded. I can understand, though. If every ninja in the village prioritized their clan over the village, the Hokage would find himself without allies. He continued. In fact, isn't that the case with every clan in the village? Not everyone can achieve what Hashirama Senju did. Considering the third Hokage's long reign and his efforts to promote non-clan ninja, the Sarutobi clan quietly grew quite a bit in the shadows. The so-called will of fire is just political manipulation, a tactic to encourage others to sacrifice without fear. Izuna said with some disdain. It's astonishing that people actually buy into it. Kaito laughed helplessly. I've long lamented that most of our clan aren't very shrewd. While they're all smart when it comes to learning jutsu, they tend to be quite single-minded in other aspects. Izuna agreed, recalling his frustrations while helping to manage the clan and dealing with its less insightful members. Thankfully, the Senju clan, their equals in strength, were similarly straightforward, making both clans evenly matched in their long history of conflict. But it was his premature death that left Hashirama Senju without a rival in his scheming and left his brother blindly chasing ideals. Thus, the ultimate downfall of the Uchiha clan could be traced back to his early demise. And all of it was Hashirama Senju's fault. Now, the only major clan left in the leaf is the Hyuga. Kaito continued the conversation. Just a bunch of old-fashioned people. Izuna had no good impression of the Hyuga either. Speaking of which, from the information I gathered while searching for documents, after the Uchiha clan was forced to relocate by the village, the Hyuga clan also made some moves for a while. Kaito mentioned. They were put in their place by the third Hokage using the Cloud Village as a warning. After witnessing the Uchiha clan's fate, they became extremely low-key. Oh? Tell me more. Izuna was intrigued. The two men gossiped endlessly, while Chiri remained mostly silent, smiling. However, after chatting with Izuna for a while, Kaito suddenly remembered he still needed to gather materials for jutsu. Chiri-sama. He inquired. Do you know where the paper for making sealing scrolls comes from? Chiri shook her head. I don't know. In the leaf, you can only buy finished sealing scrolls. As for the actual production method, I've never looked into it. Do I have to steal paper? Kaito seemed troubled. Or should I buy a bunch of scrolls and then take them apart? Humphrey. Izuna looked at him with disdain. Kaito immediately put on a pleasing smile and approached Izuna. Izuna must know something, right? Keep your distance. Izuna pushed Kaito away but still explained. The materials for sealing scrolls vary. Ordinary paper is made from a special type of tree, but it can only carry a limited amount of chakra flow and is easily damaged, which is what you're using now. Oh? Are there other materials? Kaito asked curiously. Others include animal skins, and it must be from animals that possess chakra. Especially those that can be trained as ninja animals, those are the best quality. Izuna smirked maliciously. Of course, the top-notch material is from humans, especially ninja. Kaito's smile froze a bit, and he chuckled nervously. Ha. We don't need materials that good, as long as it can carry chakra flow. The key is still the incantations. Using animal skins as materials is fine. Although these important items were in highly guarded locations protected by barriers, especially Denzo Shimura's territory, which was secured by multiple barriers, it posed no difficulty for the paper men since they didn't emit any chakra fluctuations. As long as the paper men temporarily hid on the bodies of the guarding ninja, they could easily infiltrate. The guarding ninja, aside from occasionally entering to check, spent most of their time outside the door, greatly facilitating Kaito's actions. Of course, during this time, Kaito also successfully snuck into the village several times, attaching a talisman to his face to change his appearance and openly enjoying many foods he remembered. 3 days later, all the information from the documents and books had been collected by Kaito. What's left now is to deal with that old man, Denzo Shimura. Kaito said with a cold laugh. I'll make him understand that other people's things are not so easily taken. Chapter 40, Kaito extended his left palm to the ground, and a paper doll immediately ran out from the corner, placing several strands of hair into his palm. What is this? Izuna asked. Denzo Shimura's hair. Kaito answered. He then extended his right index finger, which glowed blue, and swiftly drew one curse symbol after another on the ground, quickly forming the shape of a magic circle. Hair? What's it for? Izuna was puzzled. It's a curse. Chiri said softly, watching Kaido's movements. Oh? Just hair can curse someone? Can it kill? Izuna was extremely curious. No, it can't. Kaido placed the hair in the center of the magic circle, then lightly slashed his extended right wrist with his fingernail, allowing his blood to drip down. As his blood fell onto the magic circle, the entire formation slowly turned from its original blue color, powered by his spiritual energy, to blood red. This is the first step. He began to explain. Using the hair as a medium will only cause a minor rejection reaction in his transplanted Sharingan. Although he can still use it normally, it will increase his reaction time during combat. With this, he will definitely have a medical ninja check his body, and I will have the opportunity to obtain his blood without anyone noticing. Kaido's face showed a pleased smile. Then, I'll make him have no choice but to remove all of the Sharingan himself. Deep within the underground base of the Root organization, located in a secluded area of Hidden Leaf Village, Denzo Shimura was listening to a subordinate's mission report. Suddenly, he grunted and covered his right arm with his left hand. Denzo-sama? The Root member reporting the mission couldn't help but inquire. Leave me. Denzo commanded. Yes. The Root member obediently bowed and left. Take Root. Denzo issued another order. Call Kier. Yes, Denzo-sama. A man wearing peculiar sunglasses suddenly appeared kneeling on one knee before Denzo, then stood up and walked towards the door. Denzo-sama, what's this? Another man with orange hair appeared kneeling in the room, looking worriedly at Denzo Shimura. Denzo, covering his right hand, grimly said. The Sharingan are showing signs of rejection, damn Orochimaru. This. Trun heard and said. Should we contact Orochimaru? Denzo was silent for a while, then said. Let's check it first. Yes. Trun stood respectfully aside. The medical ninja named Ksun arrived. He unwrapped the bandages on Denzo's body and examined him carefully. Then, somewhat hesitantly, he said. I'm very sorry, Denzo-sama. All of the Sharingan on your body are showing signs of slight rejection. While it doesn't affect usage, it will cause you considerable trouble. I need to draw some blood for a thorough investigation to determine the specific cause. Denzo, with his eyes slightly closed, nodded. Seeing the leader's consent, the medical ninja quickly took out a syringe to draw blood, then bowed and said. Please bear with it for a moment, Denzo-sama. I will identify the cause as soon as possible. Go. Yes. He bowed again, taking his medical tools and walked out. He steadily made his way back to his office, where an unusual smile appeared on his ordinarily plain face. He took out the syringe containing Denzo Shimura's blood and casually placed it on the desk. Then he seemingly instructed out of thin air. Hand it over to the main body. Several paper dolls quickly ran out from the corners of the room, nimbly jumped onto the table to lift the syringe together, and then hurriedly jumped off the table and ran away. When Denzo Shimura's blood reached Kaido, he had already finished explaining his detailed action plan to the two seniors. Because he wanted to retrieve the Sharingan intact, it was obviously unwise to directly confront the old man, Denzo Shimura. If he were to lose in battle, Denzo might recklessly activate the ultimate illusion technique known as Izanagi. Izanagi can turn all realities unfavorable to the caster into mere illusions, at the cost of completely destroying one Sharingan eye. Such a situation would not only be detrimental to the battle but would also result in fewer Sharingan for Kaido to collect in the end. Therefore, he could only find a way to make Denzo temporarily give up the Sharingan. For this, he even split a part of his true spirit to possess a paper doll, taking the opportunity to control the body of the medical ninja arranged by Denzo for himself. It's finally here. Kaito said, taking the syringe filled with blood, and smiled excitedly. Let's begin. He then pushed all the blood from the syringe, mixing it with the hair previously placed in the magic circle. Scatter, feel the pain, Denzo. Kaido formed hand seals, his clothing moving without wind, and the magic circle on the ground burst into a bloodlight, turning the entire underground room red. Ah! Denzo Shimura, who was waiting for the medical ninja's examination results, suddenly felt an excruciating pain from all the transplanted Sharingan areas on his body. Unable to bear it, he cried out in agony. Soon after, he felt the intensity of the pain deepen, as if the seams of his bones were also beginning to ache severely. At that point, he could no longer maintain his composure, collapsing onto the ground in pain. Denzo-sama. Denzo-sama. Trun and Fu hurried forward to help him up, but by then, he was in so much pain he couldn't speak. The bone-deep pain forced him to grit his teeth and endure, fearing that he would scream if he opened his mouth. I'll call Cover. Trun exchanged glances with Fu, turned around, and left the room, even using the teleportation jutsu to hasten his pace. He raced all the way to K's medical room, bursting through the door. Wearing a white lab coat and squinting at something through a microscope, was startled by the sudden intrusion. He quickly looked up. Trun? What's wrong? Hurry up and come with me. Trun grabbed his wrist, pulling him out of the room. The situation with Denzo-sama had suddenly worsened. Wait. K exclaimed. I need to grab my medical kit. After turned back to grab his medical kit and was dragged by Trun to Denzo's room, Denzo was nearly at his breaking point. His face was pale, his lips purple, fingers spasming, his entire body trembling uncontrollably, sweat soaking the ground beneath him. Quick! Fu urgently urged. Pushed by Trun to Denzo's side, K also started to tremble upon seeing the scene before him. Stuttering, he said. I'm so sorry. Denzo-sama, I don't have any solutions. Our only option now is to seek help from the Hokage, or we have to temporarily give up the Sharingan. Chapter 41, Denzo Shimura was already on the brink of death due to the bone-piercing pain, but he was still desperately trying to maintain a sliver of clarity in his mind. Hearing the medical ninja's suggestion, he concentrated all his energy to think for a few seconds, then almost exhausted all his strength to squeeze out 2 words, remove them. Seeking help from the Hokage was impossible. He would not simply hand over his leverage to Tsunade. He was well aware that Tsunade, unlike Hiruzen and Saratobi, was never on the same page as the few Hokage advisors, or rather, she had been displeased with their presence for a long time. Now, she was just tolerating them temporarily due to the village's traditions and the power they held in their hands. Once Tsunade discovered his current state, the consequences would be unimaginable. Perhaps all the power and authority he held would vanish into thin air. This was absolutely unacceptable. He must become Hokage to bring glory to Hidden Leaf Village. For this, any price was worth paying. The Sharingan could only be temporarily sacrificed. Later, as long as he finds Orochimaru again for a deal, the problem should be solvable. However, that damned Orochimaru must have tampered with something during the previous transplantation surgery. Next time, he must be fully prepared, firmly grasp him, and make sure he dares not play any tricks again. Various thoughts bubbled up in Denzo Shimura's mind, pondering how to make Orochimaru completely submit, temporarily easing some of the pain in his body. Hearing his order, quickly took out surgical tools and began the process of removing the Sharingan. With his skillful actions, the 10-3 Tomoe Sharingan eyes implanted in Denzo Shimura's right arm were soon removed and placed into several small bottles filled with medicinal solution. Finally, only the Mangekyo Sharingan in the right eye remained. Denzo-sama, are you feeling better now? Should we temporarily remove the right eye as well? Fu knew that unless absolutely necessary, Denzo Shimura would not give up the Mangekyo Sharingan that he had obtained from Shizue Uchiha. To be cautious, he had to ask for Denzo Shimura's own decision. However, Kaito would not give his enemy any chance to exploit. Although Denzo Shimura now had only 1 Sharingan left, the pain did not lessen at all. Soon, all the pain began to concentrate on the area where the right eye was located. Denzo Shimura felt as if someone was drilling into his eye socket with a kunai and then began to stir his brain. Remove it. Ah! Denzo Shimura finally couldn't bear it and cried out in pain with his hands clutching his head. Who was initially using healing techniques to heal his right arm's wounds, was interrupted by his sudden movement. Blood quickly flowed from the gaping wound on his right arm, staining his face and making him look like a ghoul. The 2 of you, please hold Denzo-sama down. Covertly smirked, then shouted with apparent concern. Denzo-sama, please endure this for a moment. With no other choice, Trun and Fu followed K's instructions, each holding down one of Denzo Shimura's arms. Took the opportunity to swiftly remove the last right eye, carefully placing it in a glass bottle. Afterward, without giving another glance to Denzo Shimura, who was lying on the ground gasping for air like a fish out of water, he methodically placed all the small bottles containing the Sharingan on a tray, lifted the tray with both hands, and stood up. What are you doing? Quickly treat Denzo-sama's wounds. Trun and Fu sensed something was amiss and loudly questioned. However, remained unmoved, his facial expression even becoming stiff. At last, it's all collected. At this moment, a strange male voice echoed in the room. Who? Trun and Fu couldn't help but change their expressions, gearing up for a fight. It's worth noting that both of them, hailing from the Aburame clan known for controlling insects and a Yamanaka clan adept in mind techniques, were elite jonin proficient in reconnaissance and sensing. Yet, now they found themselves unknowingly infiltrated by an enemy. This was utterly inconceivable. No need to be tense, I've merely came to reclaim what rightfully belongs to us. The voice spoke again. Simultaneously, a burst of blue light erupted from K, and a semi-transparent figure emerged from him, then materialized into a young man with black hair and eyes. Uchiha. By now, Denzo Shimura had somewhat recovered, lying in disarray on the ground, his voice filled with gritted resentment, his remaining eye emitting a deeply vengeful light. I am Kaito Uchiha. Kaito said with a cruel smile. I've come to reclaim the Uchiha clan's heritage. After he took the tray from K's hands, K's body slumped down weakly. Big words. Denzo, still gasping, spoke. You dare to deceive me. The remnants of the Uchiha, since you've delivered yourself into the trap, it's convenient for me to eradicate you. Do you think you can leave here alive today? Oh? Kaido raised an eyebrow with a smile, his gaze shifting downwards. Numerous tiny black insects had emerged from beneath the tray, swiftly covering his hands. Phosphorus bugs. Trune stood up. You were careless. These are my unique nano-level toxic insects. They'll infiltrate your cells for complete destruction. You've already lost. Truly a secret technique of the Aburame clan, quite unforeseeable. Kaido's tone remained unfazed. Too bad, it's useless against me. What's going on? Trune, sensing the condition of his bugs, expressed surprise. You're not the real body. And, you have no chakra. You've found out. Kaido's clone revealed a sinister smile. Let's calm you down a bit. The same voice came from behind him. Kaido's true body had somehow appeared at the room's entrance. Seeing him perform hand seals with a formidable aura, Trune and Fu hastily prepared to escape with Denzo but were unexpectedly interrupted by a sudden burst of blue light on their bodies. Several tiny paper figures appeared on their torsos and limbs. Simultaneously, a rustling sound filled the air as countless paper figures emerged from all directions, enveloping them in a white blizzard, sticking to them layer by layer. As the number of paper figures on their bodies increased, their movements became heavier until they couldn't even twitch a finger, and eventually, even the flow of chakra within them halted. At the same time, a semi-transparent sphere appeared around Kaido, shielding him from Trune's toxic insects. Chapter 42, After completely trapping Denzo Shimura and his companions, Kaido Uchiha formed hand seals again, and the Sharingan in his red eyes spun. His immense and pure mental power, activated by the Sharingan, easily eradicated the weak souls of the bugs. Large swaths of black insects fell from the air, covering the ground beneath his feet. How can this be? Trune struggled to speak. The Sharingan killed my bugs directly. It seems you are Kaido who took Sasuke Uchiha away. Denzo tried to probe. Now that you have obtained the Sharingan, leave quickly. Do you want to face the entire village's siege? Kaido sneered, disdainfully looking at the bloodied, one-eyed, and utterly disheveled Denzo Shimura, casually responding. No need to worry about me, Denzo-sama. My subordinates have been unresponsive for so long, it seems you brought reinforcements. Anger surged in Denzo's single eye. Is it Itachi Uchiha? Or, is it Madara Uchiha? Oh? Kaito raised an eyebrow. It seems you know quite a lot. When did you meet that man who claims to be Madara? Of course, it was when the Uchiha clan was annihilated. Denzo provocatively replied. The destruction of the Uchiha clan was personally carried out by him and Itachi Uchiha. I arrived later only to clean up the aftermath. So, you're saying the Uchiha clan's downfall had nothing to do with you? Kaido asked, his smile implying skepticism. Of course. At that time, I was following the third Hokage's orders, waiting for negotiations with the Uchiha. Denzo claimed boldly. Unexpectedly, Itachi Uchiha followed Madara's instructions and acted directly, killing all his clan members. Is that so? Kaido took a few steps forward, taking a small bottle containing a Sharingan from the tray in his clone's hand to examine it closely. Then why did they leave these Sharingan eyes for you? That's because I arrived with my men in time, they hadn't had the chance to clear the battlefield. Utter nonsense. Izuna's condemning voice sounded, and he, along with Chiri, materialized beside Kaido. He took the bottle containing the Mangekyo Sharingan from the tray, asking darkly. Kid, why waste words with him? Whose eye is this? I don't know. Kaido shook his head, looking again at Denzo. Can you enlighten us, Denzo? However, Denzo was somewhat surprised by the two new Uchiha figures, one male and one female, each holding a blood-stained long sword, obviously having fought recently, implying the members of the Foundation at the base might already be dead. What he couldn't accept was that he and his two subordinates hadn't sensed any disturbance. Moreover, he had no recollection of the male Uchiha, but the woman seemed somewhat familiar. Are you Chiri Uchiha? He looked at the woman holding the blood-stained long sword with a gentle smile in shock. Where did you obtain the reanimation jutsu? He questioned Kaido again. Did you make a deal with Orochimaru, the traitor, Uchiha's remnants? Whether I did or didn't isn't your concern. I have no intention of telling you. Kaito was running out of patience with the old man's meddling. You need to understand, you are now the prisoner, Denzo. Sorry, I'm not inclined to leave the leaf just yet. Kaito looked back at his predecessors. As long as we control these people, we might gain more in the future. Whether they live or die doesn't matter to me. Finish it with Denzo, Chiri-sama. His expression was ruthless. Just make sure the body remains intact. Chiri frowned slightly, voicing her concern. Kaito, are you intending to dabble in those forbidden jutsu? Don't worry. Kaito reassured her with a smile. I won't indulge in such things, after all, I've discovered better techniques. Chiri nodded. I believe you. Her gaze returned to Denzo Shimura, as if wanting to say something, but ultimately she remained silent, simply walking forward silently with her sword. What are you doing? Scoundrels! Let go of Denzo-sama. You traitors of the leaf. Trunan-fu struggled and shouted. Do you seek to take my life? Denzo remained relatively calm. The Uchiha have always been a thorn in the leaf's side. No, this is personal. Chiri raised her sword towards his heart. I'm merely seeking revenge for myself. Denzo's pupil dilated slightly. I remember you died in the Uchiha clan's internal strife. What does that have to do with me? It does. Chiri's sword precisely pierced his heart. Because of the Mangekyo's special ability, I didn't go to the Pure Land after death but became a ghost wandering in the clan, thus knowing everything. Denzo. As blood soaked the white paper enveloping him, Denzo tried to speak, blood continuously spilling from his mouth. Everything I did was for the leaf. Maybe so, but what does that have to do with us? Kaito stepped forward, looking puzzled. With a cough, more blood spurted from Denzo's mouth, and he slumped, motionless. Denzo-sama. Denzo-sama. You bastards. Traitors. Trunan-fu watched helplessly as Denzo was killed, only able to shout in vain. Eh? Traitors? Kaito pointed at himself in surprise, then quickly waved his hands. No, I was never a ninja of the leaf, so I can't be called a traitor. And Chiri-sama and Izuna were summoned by me, so they don't count either. Humphrey, you sure talk a lot. Izuna gave him a contemptuous look. And I was never a leaf ninja. Alright, I'll stop. Kaito raised his hands in surrender. Let's make it quick for them. Then he prepared to form hand seals again. Whoosh! Whoosh! 2 flashes of white light, and both Trunan-fu's necks bore a line of blood. You too. Did you have to be so eager? And why didn't you act earlier? Waiting until I was all set up just to act first, what's the meaning of this? Kaito lowered his hands with a resigned look. Having fun? Fun. Izuna answered decisively. Chiri, on the other hand, returned to her gentle smile. Chapter 43, Kaito turned back to look at the medical ninja he had previously controlled, only to find that he had already been affected by the indiscriminate attack of the poison bugs from the initial Ibarame clan ninja, losing consciousness and life unwittingly. You better start moving. Izuna shook the blood off his sword onto the ground. Perhaps the root ninja out on missions will soon return here. Well, no rush, I've set up a barrier, no one can come in now. Kaito continued with his dead fish eyes. Izuna's forehead creased, he flicked his finger hard on Kaito's head, and angrily said. A barrier can block people, but won't they suspect something? Stop dawdling. Get moving. Brat. Alright, I got it. Kaito rubbed his head, obediently nodded, his eyes brightening again, and quickly began forming hand seals. Good thing I've gathered most of the paper jutsu spirits here. By the decree of rapid command. As the jutsu was cast, all paper jutsu spirits, except those maintaining the barrier, began to move. They quickly moved towards various directions of the base, starting to move bodies and clean up traces of the battle. Fortunately, Izuna and Chiri had relied on concealment papers for stealth assassinations and did not cause any damage to the base itself. Soon, all bloodstains inside the base were cleaned, and the bodies were moved and gathered in one place by the paper spirits. It's starting. Kaito took a deep breath, then his hand swiftly connected through a dozen seals. The surplus paper spirits had already been retracted, with only a few left, each standing on a body. The paper spirits quickly absorbed the warm blood from the corresponding bodies until completely soaked, then began to emit a slightly bloody glow, appearing quite eerie. As all paper spirits on the bodies turned blood-colored, Kaito began forming seals again. The blood-glowing paper spirits flew up, turning into streaks of blood light that drilled into their brains from the foreheads of the bodies. By the decree of rapid command. Rise. Kaito called out again as he formed seals. At this moment, his eyes had turned into the Mangekyo Sharingan, his hair and clothes began to move without wind. Instantly, all the bodies simultaneously opened their eyes, shining with blood light, and slowly stood up. Then, The wounds on their bodies began to disappear, their movements and expressions became more and more natural, and the blood color in their eyes quietly faded away. It's done. Kaito wiped the sweat from his forehead. Controlling so many bodies at once really isn't easy. He approached Denzo and asked, "How is it? How much memory have you accepted?" Denzo respectfully answered, "I have accepted most of it." "Good." Kaito smiled satisfactorily. "From now on, you will be responsible for the normal operation of the root base along with them." "Yes." Also, prepare a secluded room for us." "Yes." Thus, what happened in the root was completely hidden, causing no impact on Hidden Leaf Village. Root members returning from missions continued to report back to the base without noticing anything unusual. This was the formidable aspect of the forbidden yin-yang jutsu blood puppet employed by Kaito. Blood puppets could perfectly control the corpses of the deceased, even access memories in their brains, occupying all that was originally theirs without anyone noticing. Aside from those who are also yin-yang masters, no one could detect anything amiss. The reason why blood puppets are considered a forbidden jutsu is because if the caster becomes obsessed with exploring others' memories, the barrage of different memories could cause them to lose themselves. Furthermore, this jutsu ultimately manipulates the corpses of the deceased, which feels malevolent. Additionally, blood puppets have a weakness: they can only maintain control for 7 days, after which they can't be used on the same target again. Therefore, for Kaito, the soul summoning technique, which had already made progress, was much more useful than the forbidden jutsu, blood puppet, and he wouldn't attempt it excessively. He didn't try to read Denzo's memories. Now that he had become his puppet, anything Kaito wanted to know could simply be asked directly. After all, he didn't need to know the details. At the moment, Kaito was playing with a small glass vial containing a Mangekyo Sharingan, having learned from Denzo the origin of this eye. It's actually Shisui Uchiha's eye. He couldn't help sighing. Koto Mitsukami, such a terrifying ability. He actually told the higher-ups of Hidden Leaf Village about this powerful Genjutsu ability. Not sure whether to call him too naive or to praise him for truly being Kagami Uchiha's grandson. Zhaoshuan.com. He just wanted Hidden Leaf Village's recognition too much, all because of the influence left by Kagami. Chiri slightly frowned. After all, their generation grew up in the shadow of the first Hokage. Especially the third Hokage and Kagami, their way of doing things unconsciously leaned towards the first. Humphrey, as weapons of war holding power, ninjas can never achieve peace through gentle means. Izuna looked down on these younger generation's actions. He asserted. Hashirama was indeed compassionate, but that's because he had unmatched martial prowess. Even though he positioned himself humbly, no one would look down on him. Those without such strength trying to imitate him are just courting death. I was thinking of summoning the owner of this eye. After all, Uchiha who activated the Mangekyo Sharingan would be a strong addition to our forces. Kaito gazed at the Mangekyo Sharingan pattern inside the glass vial. He expressed some regret. But it seems his ideology doesn't align with ours, so let's forget it. I don't have the patience to persuade such a stubborn fool. However, I had a new idea a few days ago. He then said somewhat excitedly. Just wait, Izuna, you'll soon be able to fully utilize your strength. I'm looking forward to it. Izuna smiled. Kaito then began to focus on the sealed jutsu materials he had gathered over the past few days. And Chiri started to carefully review the mission records of the route. Izuna, feeling somewhat helpless, picked up some of the Route 6 experimental records to start going through them. Chapter 44. These past few days, the members of the route were somewhat puzzled. Their leader, Denzo, had assigned them some strange tasks, such as spreading various true and false legends about tail beasts and yokai. The loyalty of the route members was extremely high. Although they were baffled, they diligently carried out these tasks. Fortunately, they could confirm that the tasks were indeed assigned by Denzo himself. Anyone unaware might think that the leader of the route had changed. In fact, these were actions taken by Kaito in order to support the revival plan for the yokai. For him, since he temporarily had control over the route organization, he might as well make good use of it, so his efforts wouldn't be in vain. The yokai specifically sent from Mama also began to arrive in the ninja world, starting their activities in the shadows. For a while, rumors about demons and ghosts began to circulate within the ninja world, and games like Hyakumonogatari became popular. It was said that some people even claimed to have seen yokai at the end of the Hyakumonogatari game. This undercurrent of rumors, of course, was noticed by those with intentions. In a subterranean base in the northern part of the Frost Country, White Zetsu was endlessly talking to Black Zetsu about his recent discoveries. It seems those yokai have really started to become restless. Black Zetsu said ominously. A while ago, they even dared to invade my psychic space, interrupting my communication with my mother. Last time, you mentioned Kaito was accompanied by Izuna and a female yokai, right? White Zetsu chuckled. The ability to enter the dream world is truly fascinating. Could they also have appeared in my dreams? Like when I dreamt I was defecating, he. They are obtaining information through that yokai's ability. It's possible they already know too much that they shouldn't. Black Zetsu exuded a chilling killing intent. White Zetsu, send out more white beings, keep a close watch on Kaido and his group's movements. Are you planning to get rid of them? I'll try my best. White Zetsu clenched his fists in encouragement, then scratched his head. But where are they hiding exactly? They're really good at playing hide-and-seek. Black Zetsu completely ignored White Zetsu's antics and commanded. In any case, report back to me as soon as you find their whereabouts. Fine. White Zetsu sighed. In the land of hot water, Jiraiya was walking down the bustling streets with Naruto. For Naruto, who had only left Hidden Leaf Village a few times, everything was new and exciting, and he couldn't help looking around, slowing down his pace. Feeling Naruto falling behind, Jiraiya turned around, grabbed Naruto by the collar, and dragged him forward. Stop acting like you've never seen the world before. Hurry up, I'm taking you to the best hot spring in here, show some enthusiasm, you idiot. Let me go. After struggling for a while and realizing he couldn't break free, Naruto let himself be dragged along. He glared at Jiraiya's doll figure with contempt and shouted. Humphrey, I'm not interested in any hot spring. It's you, the perverted hermit, who wants to go peeping. You idiot. Jiraiya suddenly released Naruto, causing him to unexpectedly fall on his buttocks. Bending down, he knocked on Naruto's head harshly and scolded in a lowered voice. Call me the Toad Sage. No, that's wrong. He knocked again and whispered fiercely. I've told you before, it's for research. Research. Don't talk about peeping in public, you fool. Humphrey. Naruto simply sat on the ground, crossed his arms, and turned his head away. What a clueless brat. Jiraiya covered his forehead with his hand, helplessly saying. Alright, I'll treat you to the land of hot water's specialty ramen later, so just keep quiet for now. Yay. Naruto immediately cheered and jumped up. Let's go, ramen. At the ramen shop. Naruto devoured a large bowl of ramen, lifting the bowl to gulp down the soup until it was all gone. Then, slamming the bowl down, he raised his hand and shouted. Owner, another bowl. What a glutton. Jiraiya sat idly by, picking his nose. Humphrey. Naruto didn't even give him a glance. When the owner brought over another bowl, he began slurping it down again. Owner, 2 servings of pork bone ramen. At that moment, 2 young ninjas wearing the forehead protector of the land of hot water walked in. They sat next to Jiraiya and his apprentice, chatting away as if no one else was there. Yamada, have you heard any new stories lately? I recently heard an interesting story. As ninjas of the land of hot water, their duties weren't many, leading a rather leisurely life. Yamada, an unremarkable ninja, besides training, was most keen on collecting interesting stories and legends. He was somewhat proud at the moment because he loved the engrossed expressions of people listening to his stories. What story? Let's hear it. Morikuchi couldn't help but pat Yamada's shoulder encouragingly, expressing his anticipation for the story. Yamada spoke in a cautious whisper. Do you know about a 9-tailed fox? The 9-tailed fox? Jiraiya, who was boredly listening from the side, and Naruto, who was eating his ramen, instantly perked up their ears. The 9-tailed fox? Of course, I know. Morikuchi smiled bitterly. It's said to be the strongest of the 9-tailed beasts. It's just a pity our village doesn't have such power. You wish. Our small village wouldn't be able to utilize such a thing even if we had it. Yamada also became somber for a moment. However, he quickly cheered up again and continued in a lower voice. I was on a mission a few days ago, and I participated in a Hyakumonogatari game with the merchant caravan I was protecting. There, I heard a story about the 9-tailed fox. Morikuchi looked skeptical. Fake, right? How could those who aren't even ninjas know about the tailed beasts? Do I look that easy to deceive? A smug look appeared on Yamada's face. There was a samurai in the caravan who claimed his ancestors were of notable standing, from a legitimate warrior family. Really? What's the story? Morikuchi became curious. It's said that 1,000 years ago, all the daimyos of these countries were under the rule of the emperor. Yamada's voice became even lower, almost a whisper. The 9-tailed fox once transformed into an incredibly beautiful woman, who was not only intelligent but also of unparalleled beauty. She entered the imperial court and won the emperor's favor and trust. PFFT. Hearing this, Naruto couldn't help but spray the ramen from his mouth. Jiraiya, sitting next to him, was full of black lines, nearly falling off his chair. Chapter 45, Who is it? Which scoundrel dares to fabricate such nonsense about me? I'll kill you all. In a dimly lit space, A furious nine-tailed fox suddenly burst out with terrifying chakra, roaring loudly. Clearly, the nine-tail sealed within Naruto had just heard about its own romantic tales and was instantly furious. However, the conversation between the two hot water ninjas continued, even getting louder. Yamada continued his story. Later, it was the legendary Sage of Six Paths who noticed something amiss. He exposed the true identity of the fox spirit in front of the emperor. He also fought a great battle with the fox spirit and ultimately subdued it. Morokuchi's eyes widened in disbelief. Impossible. This story is completely unbelievable. The tailed beasts are said to be gigantic creatures. How could such a being transform into a beauty? What's so impossible about that? Yamada said nonchalantly. Even you can't transform into a beauty using the transformation technique, let alone those legendary powerful beings. Maybe they're just really good at transforming. Damn it. I'll kill you all. Inside the ceiling space, the Nine-Tails was beyond furious. That does make some sense. Morokuchi couldn't help but nod. It seems the Nine-Tails is a female fox. I'll never forgive you. Let me out. At this moment, the Nine-Tails inside Naruto began to forcefully collide with the seal. And Yamada also sighed. Truly worthy of being a legendary emperor, to even favor such a terrifying being. Jiraiya, who had been listening while trying to suppress his laughter, could no longer hold back and burst into laughter, slapping the table. Ha ha ha. This is too funny. This is excellent material. Just then, a terrifying aura suddenly emanated from beside him, cutting his laughter short. He stiffly turned his head and saw Naruto's condition, his eyes nearly popping out. Not good. The Nine-Tails seemed to be on the verge of rampaging. Just before, Naruto had also been listening to the story, thoroughly enjoying it and laughing non-stop. He was even thinking that the great fox was a kindred spirit. Perhaps he could have a good chat with it about his most powerful signature ninjutsu, the sexy technique. A sexy technique that could enchant that emperor must be incredibly powerful. But unexpectedly, joy turned to sorrow in an instant. At a certain moment, the Nine-Tails chakra uncontrollably burst out from him. Although Naruto was trying hard to endure, the red chakra leaking out from him was clearly increasing. Trouble. Jiraiya could no longer care about anything else. He instantly grabbed Naruto's shoulders and disappeared from the spot in a flash. The ramen shop owner was left dumbfounded. Was this intimidating him first and then running away without paying? What happened? Morokuchi was dumbfounded, staring at the spot where the two had disappeared. Dine and dash. To dine and dash, they didn't have to be so desperate. Yamada said somewhat panically. That boy's chakra just now was way too terrifying. Got it, here's the corrected segment with Chiri-senpai changed to Chiri-sama where specified, in the Hidden Leaf Village, inside the Root Organization's base. Chiri, carrying food, walked into the secret room, reminding Kaido, who was engrossed in writing furiously. Kaido, you should eat something. Sorry, Chiri-sama. Kaido didn't even look up. Just put it aside for now, I'll be done soon. Chiri looked at the room filled with calculation drafts scattered all over the floor and shook her head helplessly. That's it. Kaido suddenly exclaimed excitedly, tossing the brush aside and holding up a piece of paper with a laugh. Ha ha ha. It looks like I succeeded. Chiri-sama. I did it. He turned around, looking at Chiri with sparkling eyes. Where's Izuna-senpai? Gurgle. The sound from his stomach interrupted Kaito's excitement. He touched his belly. I'm hungry. Alright, you better eat now. I'll call Izuna-senpai. Chiri stuffed the food into Kaido's hands and left the secret room. In a short while, Izuna appeared. He frowned and looked around, finding almost no place to stand in the room, so he simply leaned against the door and asked. What do you need me for? Izuna-senpai. Kaido put down the empty bowl and excitedly showed a piece of paper filled with charms. This. I did it. What is this nonsense? Izuna glanced at it and looked away. The paper was full of dense, incomprehensible charms. He couldn't understand it even if he wanted to. Ha. Ha ha. I forgot. Kaido laughed awkwardly, carefully putting away the paper, then quickly walked up to Izuna. That's not important. The key is my idea has been realized. So. What is the idea? Izuna's forehead showed a cross mark, annoyed at the young man who was excited like a child. Ah, didn't I mention it before? Kaito scratched his unwashed hair for several days. No. Izuna backed away, showing disgust on his face. It was something I thought of before. Kaido's eyes sparkled. To use the Sharingan we obtained this time as the core for your bodies. He proudly gave a thumbs up. This is the best medium for summoning Uchiha ninjas. Not a bad idea. Izuna still showed disgust. But first, clean yourself and all those papers behind you. Kaido looked down at his ink-stained clothes and the room filled with discarded drafts, and quickly nodded. Okay. I'm going to take a bath and change clothes, and please help me dispose of these drafts, Izuna-senpai. 15 minutes later. In the spacious room, a refreshed Kaido reappeared in front of Izuna and Chiri. Izuna looked at him and nodded in satisfaction. Clean and tidy appearance, graceful movements, a gentle smile, not bad. We Uchiha must always maintain such a perfect demeanor. Kaido flicked his sleeves, and 3 cushions appeared on the ground. My seniors, let's sit down and talk. Thus, the 3 of them gracefully knelt down. Kaido even took out a fan from his sleeve and began to gently fan himself. Seeing this, Izuna raised an eyebrow but managed to maintain a serious expression. This kid, isn't he overdoing it a bit? Chapter 46, Kaido held a cypress fan in front of him, and 2 small bottles containing Sharingan eyes immediately appeared on the floor. Unfortunately, there's only one Mangekyo Sharingan, he said as he closed the fan and touched his chin, looking somewhat troubled. How shall we distribute it between the 2 seniors? The Mangekyo Sharingan should go to Izuna-senpai. Chiri immediately shook her head. I'm not too keen on fighting. Give it to Chiri. I'm stronger, Izuna said. Kaido thought for a moment and decided to listen to Chiri-sama. After all, he knew Chiri's personality well. She was a very gentle woman. If it weren't for the family's internal strife, she might not have revealed her talent. Then let's give it to Izuna-senpai. Don't delay, he persuaded. Since you are more adept at fighting, let Chiri-sama rest more. Izuna was not a pretentious person, so he nodded in agreement upon seeing this. Kaido put the cypress fan back into his sleeve and took out a somewhat old piece of paper. This was peeled off from the Summoning Beast contract scroll of Denzo. He introduced with a hint of pride. Although I don't know what material it was made of, its texture is very tough, and it has excellent chakra endurance. Izuna glanced at it with disdain and said unhappily. Do I have to attach myself to this smelly and ragged thing? It's absolutely your misconception. Kaido laid the paper flat on the ground. Although it looks a bit old, it doesn't matter, it's very clean. Humphrey. Izuna didn't say anything more. Kaido directly bit his finger and drew a pattern of an eye in the center of the paper with his blood, where the pupil part was just a blank circle. Then he took out a brush and quickly wrote a circle of complex and difficult to distinguish spells around the eye pattern. Although the brush clearly didn't absorb any ink, black spells continuously emerged from beneath the brush. He stopped only after filling the entire paper. This way, the preparation is complete. Kaido looked at his work with satisfaction. Next is the crucial step. Putting away the brush, he reached for the bottle containing Shizue Uchiha's Mangekyo Sharingan eye. He opened the bottle, poured out the medicine inside, and then took out the eye, placing it on the blank pupil of the pattern on the paper. After doing all this, Kaido stroked his sleeve and then opened his own Mangekyo Sharingan. He formed a seal with both hands, and the spiritual power around him began to surge. For a while, the dense spells on the paper seemed to come alive, swirling around the eye pattern and slowly tightening towards the center. The Mangekyo Sharingan eye placed on the eye pattern also slowly sank and finally transformed into a flat pattern. The background was red, with a black shuriken-shaped pattern rotating in it. As the outer spells tightened more and more, the shuriken-shaped pattern also gradually stopped rotating. In a short while, the large swath of spells on the paper had disappeared, leaving only a circle of fine patterns surrounding the Mangekyo Sharingan eye pattern in the center. Afterward, Kaido took out his scissors and quickly cut out a paper figure. This paper figure was much larger than the usual paper talismans he used, with the eye pattern located on the forehead of the paper figure. He laid the paper figure flat and once again took out the brush to draw new spells on both sides of it. Done. Kaido looked at his work happily. Although the paper figure was somewhat yellowed, its entire body was covered with smooth and expressive spells. The forehead part had a Mangekyo Sharingan eye pattern, and the heart part had a pentagram pattern. What a paper figure that balances both aesthetics and strength, Kaido nodded in satisfaction. Izuna-senpai, let's give it a try now. He looked at Izuna with some excitement. Izuna looked disdainfully at the magical style paper figure in Kaido's hand and nodded. Let's start then. Kaido's eyes sparkled as he placed the paper figure on the floor and formed a seal. Swift as the law. Izuna's body gradually became ethereal, detaching from the original paper figure and returning to a soul state. Then his soul floated up and entered the new paper figure. The paper figure shuddered and then stood up, quickly growing from a flat to a three-dimensional form, and a new Izuna appeared. Izuna-senpai, how does it feel? Kaido lost his composed demeanor, eagerly circling around Izuna. Izuna pushed Kaido away, stretched out her hand to open and then clenched it, and smiled satisfactorily. Not bad. Ah, there's one last step. Kaido moved behind him, grabbed the collar of his clothes with his left hand and pulled it down, while his right hand lit up with spiritual energy and pressed it against the back of his neck. "What are you doing?" Izuna flashed away to create distance, angrily fixing his collar while glaring at Kaido. "Izuna-senpai." Kaido laughed, raising his right hand that glowed with spiritual power. "This is a curse mark I've developed, capable of absorbing and storing natural energy. With this, not only can you replenish combat energy at any time, but you can also directly learn to use what's called senjutsu. Don't you want to try?" Izuna frowned and looked at him for a while before reluctantly nodding. Kaido hurriedly applied the curse mark, continuously speaking. "Also, you can use that Mangekyo Sharingan of Shizui as well. Let's see." He stepped back a few steps to stand beside Chiri, looking expectantly at Izuna. "Feel your power now, Izuna-senpai." Izuna closed his eyes and immediately felt a continuous flow of energy from the outside air through the curse mark, mixing with his chakra. At the same time, his forehead began to bulge as if an eye was opening. Kaido and Chiri watched Izuna without blinking. A purple pattern slowly emerged on his face, then his forehead slowly cracked open, and a red eye slowly opened. Kaido smiled confidently. "It's a success, as expected of me. Congratulations, both of you, Kaido, Izuna-senpai." Chiri was also happy for them. "Ha ha ha." Izuna laughed excitedly. Opening all three of his eyes, he felt his powerful state and praised. "Well done, Kaido. I'm even stronger now than I was in life." "Not at all." Kaido modestly brushed it off but excitedly said. "Next, after changing the paper figure for Chiri-senpai, let's leave Hidden Leaf Village openly." Chapter 47. It was an ordinary morning, and the streets of the Hidden Leaf Village were gradually becoming lively. The shops on both sides of the street had already begun their business. Housewives carrying vegetable baskets went out to shop, and children laughed and played as they made their way through the crowd. Occasionally, ninjas would suddenly appear on the rooftops and then disappear in the blink of an eye. Kakashi Hatake, holding the final work published by Jiraiya, walked leisurely towards the Hokage building. It felt so relaxing. He couldn't help but sigh. Sasuke had run away, that troublesome kid Naruto was taken away by Jiraiya, and even Sakura started to train with the Hokage. Now, he really felt light all over. He didn't need to take care of students painstakingly. He only needed to do some tasks that were simple for him, and he could happily spend a day. This was truly an ideal life. "Kakashi." Suddenly, a deep voice came from afar, and it was getting closer. Kakashi Hatake couldn't help but get goosebumps, sighing somewhat helplessly. "Trouble has arrived." "Good morning, Kakashi." A man with thick black hair and thick eyebrows came rushing up and affectionately patted Kakashi's shoulder, showing off a set of neat, white teeth. "Ah, it's Guy." "Good morning." Kakashi Hatake, with droopy eyelids, greeted him listlessly. Although not much of his face was visible, he vividly demonstrated a sleepy expression with one eye. "No." Might Guy screamed with his hands in an X shape, lamenting. "My rival Kakashi. On this beautiful morning, how can you be so listless? Although I can understand the pain in your heart." Might Guy suddenly burst into tears. "Ah." Kakashi Hatake was puzzled. "Indeed, not having your beloved students by your side can cause pain." Might Guy clenched his fists in a cheering pose. "But a man cannot be defeated by such setbacks. Cheer up, Kakashi." He gave a thumbs up, winked, and his white teeth gleamed brightly. "You still have me, your best friend, by your side." "Thank you, Guy." Kakashi Hatake, feeling a bit overwhelmed, turned and walked away. "Wait for me." Might Guy hurriedly followed. "Don't be shy, Kakashi." Kakashi Hatake couldn't help but roll his eyes to the sky. Then his gaze was caught by a familiar large bird. That is. He couldn't help but frown. It must be right, that huge owl, probably the same one they encountered when they met Sasuke last time. "What?" Might Guy shaded his eyes and looked up. "Whose summoning beast is that?" "Guy." Kakashi Hatake's tone became serious. "It might be an enemy attack, let's go check it out." As soon as he finished speaking, he dashed at full speed towards the landing site of the owl. Might Guy quickly followed, asking out of curiosity. "Who is the enemy?" "Kaito Uchiha." Kakashi Hatake explained urgently. "The man who ultimately took Sasuke away last time. Although we haven't fought, we need to be prepared to face a high-level Sharingan. Be careful," he cautioned. "That man might be even more troublesome than Itachi Uchiha." "Uchiha, got it." Might Guy also became serious. "Should we notify the Hokage first?" "It's too late for that," Kakashi Hatake said somewhat helplessly. "Fortunately, it looks like the place where the opponent landed doesn't have civilians, and the patrolling ninjas should have already noticed. Let's hurry over." Swoosh. Swoosh. The two of them sped up once again. At this time, due to the conspicuous arrival, Kaido and his group were already confronting a team of patrolling ninjas. I say, did you intentionally become so big before coming here? Can't you be a bit more low-key? Kaido helplessly looked at the giant owl blocking out the sky in midair. Hoo. The owl didn't engage, just making a series of bizarre laughing sounds. I don't understand what you're saying. I'm just an owl, after all. Besides, who was it that persuaded me to come out and show off my splendid form, to leave a legend among humans? And what happened? As soon as we arrived at the destination, you ditched me. No excuses. You really do see me just as a mode of transportation. Today, I'm going to make a name for myself on my own. Humphrey. Who are you? The captain of this patrol team, Inuzuka-shun, looked nervously at the three strangers in front of him. Even surrounded by 6 leaf ninjas, these 3 remained calm, indicating they didn't take him or his patrol colleagues seriously. Moreover, Shun took a closer look at the hostage held by Kaido, unaware of whether he was alive or dead, and couldn't help but be shocked and widened his eyes. That's Lord Denzo. The other leaf ninjas were making eye signals to him, asking what to do next as the team captain. How would I know what to do? Shun felt quite disheartened. This is just our bad luck, facing a powerful enemy who has silently captured one of the advisors. And we're just some ordinary chunin. Who are we? Kaido looked at the leaf ninjas who were on guard, a flash of scarlet crossing his eyes. You should be able to tell. Uki. Uchiha. Shun couldn't help but swallow nervously, mustering the courage to ask. What are your intentions by sneaking into the leaf? Hey, no need to be nervous. Kaito smiled warmly. We're just here to retrieve the Uchiha clan's relics, and we have already finished. So we'll be leaving soon. Is that so? The voice of Kakashi rang out next to Kaido's ear as he silently appeared, holding a kunai to Kaido's neck. Then, could you please release Lord Denzo first? Step back. Leave this to us. At the same time, Might Guy also appeared in front of Shun. You go report the situation here to the Hokage immediately. Yes. Shun, seeing the sudden appearance of the 2 elite jounin, couldn't help but breathe a sigh of relief. Nice to see you again, Kakashi-kun. The smile on the face of the hostage, Kaido, didn't waver in the slightest. Kakashi tightened his grip on the kunai, drawing a line of blood on Kaido's neck, and spoke amicably. No need to be so formal, just call me Kakashi. But I think it would be best if you released Lord Denzo first. The 2 seniors are really heartless, huh? Kaido looked mournfully at Izuna and Chiri standing beside him. To just stand by and watch me fall into someone else's hands. This act made Izuna glare at him fiercely. Really, there's no helping it. Kaito sighed again and threw the body of Denzo he was holding towards Might Guy. Then, I'll return him to you. Might Guy quickly caught Denzo, checking him over carefully, his face turning pale in an instant. He carefully laid Denzo's body on the ground, glaring angrily at Kaido, solemnly saying, Kakashi, Lord Denzo is already dead. Chapter 48, What? Kakashi was also surprised and widened his eyes. He looked at Kaido, who remained calm and collected, and couldn't help but feel a headache coming on. Unlike the straightforward Might Guy, he wasn't exactly furious about Denzo's death. After all, he had his fair share of issues with the leader of the route. And for the current Hokage, Tsunade, the route under Denzo's command was always an unstable factor. Seeing the man dead, he was somewhat pleased. But the nature of this incident wasn't about who died but that someone had infiltrated the Leaf and killed a Leaf ninja. As a member of the Leaf, he undoubtedly had to take a firm stance on such matters. Nobody move. He tightened the grip of his kunai on Kaido's neck, directing his sharp gaze towards the other 2 people. So, it's you, the kid from the Hotake clan. Izuna, with his arms crossed and an indifferent look towards the scene, commented. You've made a name for yourself with the Sharingan, despite being an outsider. Not bad. Thank you for the compliment. Kakashi politely responded, though he felt something was off. Whether it was Kaido, who he was holding, or the other man and woman, their demeanor was too composed. Kakashi, since you've already captured one. Might Guy, already in a serious stance on the other side, declared. Leave these 2 to me. I won't lose to you, Kakashi. Hey. Just as Kakashi was about to speak up and stop him, Might Guy had already dashed forward in a blur. Really, Guy just doesn't read the room. Who said I've captured him? Just look at him, you can tell it's a facade. Wouldn't it be better to wait for the Hokage to come with reinforcements? Bring it on. Seeing Might Guy charging at him, Izuna also excitedly drew his long sword, ready to meet him head-on. Both could be considered speed-type ninjas, exchanging several moves in a short period, a blur to onlookers. Might Guy used his steel-like taijutsu as his method of attack, swift and powerful, where even a graze could injure. Izuna, however, revealed his 3 Tomoe Sharingan, wielding his sword with precision and deadly force. Ha 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 ha. Experiencing the thrill of battle after so long, Izuna couldn't help but laugh aloud. Kid, your taijutsu is strong. But his sword suddenly sped up, attacking from various tricky angles, pressuring Might Guy. Swoosh. Their battle finally drew blood. Might Guy, in a critical moment, ducked to avoid a direct strike but still got his cheek sliced by the sharp blade. Izuna didn't pursue his advantage. Instead, he stood still, spun his sword, and warned. You can't win against me at this level. Indeed. Might Guy pulled back, wiping the blood off his face. Then, let me show you the power of the 8 gates. The 5th gate, Gate of Limit, open. With a loud shout, a surge of wild green energy burst forth, turning his skin red. Take this. Before his words fell, his fist was already in front of Izuna. So fast. Izuna's Sharingan rapidly spun, tracking his movements and using teleportation jutsu to dodge at the crucial moment. Kakashi, your companion is quite desperate, isn't he? Kaido, watching their intense fight, casually remarked to Kakashi. Well, Guy is just that passionate. Kakashi naturally replied. He wouldn't tear down his comrade in front of others. Though, in this situation, Guy really was going a bit too all out. It's fascinating how 2 people with completely opposite personalities can become friends. Kaito said, somewhat amazed. Who's to say otherwise? Kakashi agreed. However, as a seasoned ninja, Kakashi wanted to dig out more information from Kaito. Speaking of which, where is Sasuke now? Sasuke? He is training in an absolutely safe place. Kaito said. Didn't expect you to care so much about your student. After all, I'm his teacher. Kakashi said. What did you mean earlier by the relics of the Uchiha clan? Kaito said meaningfully. Naturally, it refers to everything that originally belonged to the Uchiha. Is that so? Kakashi narrowed his eyes. Does that include this Sharingan of mine? That doesn't include it. Kaito said. After all, the person who gave you the eye did so voluntarily. And besides, yours isn't a relic. Thank you. Kakashi smiled, somewhat pleased. The 2 of them, in a strange posture of one holding the other hostage, chatted as if no one else was around, and they seemed to get along quite well. The surrounding leaf ninjas looked at them as if they were watching some magical creature. On the other side, Izuna and Might Guy also paused their new round of confrontation to face off again. Even though Might Guy had opened the 5th gate of the 8 gates, increasing his strength several folds, he still couldn't gain the upper hand in the fight. Izuna had already activated his Mangekyo Sharingan. It's worth mentioning that since Izuna gave his eyes to his brother Madara Uchiha in his lifetime, his Mangekyo Sharingan was already damaged. Previously, his eye was only in a barely usable state, like during that dream journey where a few seconds of Susanoo nearly depleted his remaining ocular power. Moreover, the special dojutsu produced by the Mangekyo Sharingan was completely lost. In fact, this was the same situation for Chiri, who had lost an eye due to using Izanami. Fortunately, Kaido had spiritual energy techniques, allowing them to train even in their soul states. With the addition of Shizue Uchiha's eye, Izuna's ocular power was no longer on the verge of exhaustion. Although the lost dojutsu couldn't be restored, in terms of insight, the Mangekyo Sharingan was much stronger than the regular 3 Tomoe Sharingan. Even facing Might Guy, who had increased strength by opening the 5th gate and was just using swordsmanship, Izuna still maintained the upper hand. This added several more wounds to Might Guy. What a powerful enemy. Might Guy's eyes shone as he looked at Izuna. So that's the famed Mangekyo Sharingan. Hey, you dare to look me in the eye after your chakra went berserk. Izuna observed Might Guy's chakra flow. Not bad, this state indeed won't be affected by Genjutsu. Right. Might Guy posed specially. Be careful, I'm going to go all out now. 8 gates released formation, the first inner gate, the gate of opening, open. 8 gates released formation, the second inner gate, the gate of healing, open. 8 gates released formation, the third inner gate, the gate of life, open. 8 gates released formation, the fourth inner gate, the gate of pain, open. 8 gates released formation, the fifth inner gate, the gate of limit, open. 8 gates released formation, the sixth inner gate, the gate of view, open. An even more ferocious surge of chakra exploded, making Might Guy's aura even more terrifying. After opening the 6th gate, he immediately launched an attack. First came a straight punch, but his fist was so fast that it ignited flames due to friction with the air. Morning Peacock. In the next moment, countless fists ablaze with flames attacked Izuna, like a peacock spreading its feathers. Chapter 49, Boom. A huge explosion resonated, and the area where the two were fighting was engulfed in thick smoke. Amazing. What happened? Did they defeat the enemy? Damn, I can't see clearly. The watching Leaf Village patrol members eagerly fixed their eyes on the scene, nervously discussing among themselves. You don't seem worried about your companion at all. Kakashi asked Kaido with a curious tone. Kaido, seemingly unfazed by the kunai at his neck, nodded naturally and said, no need to worry, Izuna-senpai is very strong. Is that so? Guy is also extremely strong. Izuna? A name Kakashi hadn't heard before, he slightly frowned. At that moment, the dust on the battlefield began to clear, and the figures of Izuna and Might Guy reappeared before everyone. Ha! Ha! Might Guy, panting, looked in the direction of his attack and then widened his eyes in surprise. A clone formed from flames? When did that happen? Izuna's battered body stood quietly in place, but the parts of his body that were hit had completely turned into flames, burning intensely in the air. Hey, you shouldn't have used that long-range attack with flames. Half of his face still retained a human appearance, while the other half had turned into burning flames. Uchiha are the experts of fire style. No sooner had he spoken than his entire body transformed into flames, sweeping towards Might Guy. Might Guy, using his exceptional physical skills, dodged the flame attack in an instant and leaped to an open area nearby, then began looking around. Where is the real body? He posed again, ready to strike. Right here. Izuna's voice came from the other side. Might Guy quickly turned his head only to find that Izuna had already appeared among the watching Leaf ninjas, holding his sword to the neck of Shun. Where even now? Izuna stood behind Shun, revealing a slightly malicious smile. Despite the spirited exchange they had just had, Izuna was ultimately not the type of person addicted to combat. His ingrained habits drove him to choose the most advantageous situation for himself. Shun, with the sword at his neck, felt like misfortune had struck him, and cold sweat began to run down his forehead. His ninja hound, seeing its master taken hostage, immediately went into attack mode but dared not approach directly, instead growling softly and anxiously pawing at the ground. The surrounding patrol members also assumed attack stances where they stood, hesitant to act rashly, their gazes occasionally turning to the two elite jounin present. Might Guy was also restrained by Izuna's actions, equally unable to make any further moves. He wasn't sure he could rescue his comrade before the enemy killed him, nor could he just watch his comrade die before his eyes. This is troublesome. Kakashi watched the scene unfolding and felt a headache coming on. Don't worry, Izuna-senpai won't kill that young man from the Inuzuka clan. Kaido reassured. As long as you and your comrades don't act rashly. There's really no helping it. Kakashi could only hope that reinforcements would arrive soon. Just then, suddenly 3 different voices called out simultaneously, causing the Leaf ninjas present to breathe a sigh of relief. Shadow imitation technique, successful. Mind-body switch technique. Partial multi-size technique. A slender black shadow quietly connected to Izuna's shadow on the ground, immobilizing his movements. The kidnapped Shun almost simultaneously pushed away the knife at his neck and quickly moved away from the spot. Then, a gigantic hand emerged from the nearby forest, reaching out for Izuna. Inoshikacho's trio, huh? Izuna's lips curled up slightly. This level can't hold me. Purple patterns appeared on his face as a powerful burst of chakra suddenly freed him from the shadow imitation technique. He easily dodged the incoming giant hand and, in a flash, returned to Chiri's side. Who exactly are you? Tsunade emerged from the forest, accompanied by the leaders of the Inoshikacho clans and members of the Hokage guard team. Lady Hokage. Lady Hokage has arrived. Seeing the newcomers, the Leaf ninjas present couldn't help but show relief on their faces. Finally, the 5th Hokage of the Leaf. Kaito spoke. I am Kaito Uchiha, and those are 2 of my clan's elders. I've heard about you from Kakashi. Tsunade said, her gaze turning complex as she looked at the body of Denzo Shimura on the ground. Did you kill Advisor Denzo? Yes. Kaito admitted openly. Who would have thought that Advisor Denzo could be too greedy? What do you mean? Tsunade furrowed her brows. It's said that the 5th Hokage is the best medical ninja in the shinobi world. Kaito said with a meaningful smile. You just need to examine his right hand to understand. This is an internal matter of the Leaf. Tsunade didn't rush to inspect Denzo's body. After all, he was an advisor of the Leaf, and whatever secrets he had on him should not be exposed publicly in front of everyone. So, what about the members of the Foundation you under Denzo's command? Tsunade clenched her fists and stared at Kaito. Did you kill them all? How could we? Kaito smiled. Don't worry, while some casualties were inevitable, most of the members were merely knocked out. The same voice came from above. Everyone quickly looked up, only to see another Kaito standing on the back of a giant owl. Well, I knew it wouldn't be that easy. Kakashi casually thrust his kunai into the neck of the Kaito in front of him. No blood spurted out, the Kaito whose neck was pierced quickly deflated, turning from a living person into a flat shape. You turn against me so quickly, Kakashi, even though we were just having a pleasant chat. The paper figure Kaito spoke these words before beginning to shrink, eventually turning into a tattered little paper figure that drifted away with the wind. While it was nice chatting, we are enemies after all. Kakashi pulled up his forehead protector, revealing his Sharingan. I didn't intend to be your enemy. The Kaido in the air formed hand seals, causing the leaf ninjas on the ground to brace themselves defensively. However, he didn't launch an attack. Instead, he summoned Izuna and Chiri, who were still on the ground, to his side. What? The leaf ninjas were clearly not expecting the enemy to so easily break out of the encirclement. Lady Hokage. Kaido looked down from his elevated position at the leaf ninjas below, loudly declaring. I just want to state that from today onwards, the Uchiha clan formally withdraws from the Hidden Leaf Village. Chapter 50, What? Kaido's statement caused a stir among the leaf ninjas. Since the establishment of the village, there had only been ninjas who defected, but no one had ever heard of simply withdrawing. Kaito knew this, but he just wanted to say it anyway. The relationship between the Uchiha and the Leaf was a historical mess. Objectively, there was no right or wrong, just the victors and the vanquished. But as a member of the Uchiha, Kaido couldn't bring himself to view it objectively. What are you saying? Tsunade, as the Hokage, was also somewhat shocked by Kaito's words. Let's set aside the Uchiha issue for now, she said angrily, looking up at the three in the sky. But you infiltrated the Leaf and killed Advisor Denzo and members of the Foundation. That is unforgivable. The fifth Hokage might want to take a look at this first, Kaito said as he pulled a scroll from his sleeve and tossed it down. He flicked a small paper figure attached to his lapel and declared loudly, this contains some of the mission reports and experiment records I found within the Foundation. Take a good look and see what Advisor Denzo Shimura has really been doing. After the scroll fell, Kakashi quickly reached out to catch it, inspected it for dangers, and then handed it to Tsunade. Tsunade opened the scroll and after a while, she grimly put it away and coldly asked. Is everything written here true? Of course. Kaito nodded with a smile. This is just a part. The members of the Foundation were taken down by our Genjutsu, but all the internal data remains intact. He rubbed the small paper figure pinned to his lapel and continued. I also helped remove the tongue-binding curse Denzo placed on the members of the Foundation. The fifth Hokage can further interrogate those people for details. Even if all this is true, it's still a matter for the Leaf to handle. Tsunade glared at the body of Denzo Shimura and said irritably. It's none of your business as an outsider. That's also true. Kaito nodded in agreement, but then he changed the subject. But there are many grievances between Denzo and Uchiha to be settled. His tone became serious. As an advisor to the Hokage of the Leaf, he secretly took the eyes of Shizue Uchiha, who was loyal to the Leaf, leading to his death. Afterwards, he collected Sharingan from the massacred Uchiha clan and implanted them into himself. These are the debts of blood he owed. How could that be? You're talking nonsense. Hearing Kaido's words, the Leaf ninjas present were filled with righteous indignation. They couldn't believe that someone as high up as Denzo in the Leaf would do such things. Only Tsunade, Kakashi, and the leaders of the Inoshikacho clans, who knew Denzo's true nature, glanced at his disheveled corpse with complicated looks. Don't believe it? Kaito smiled somewhat happily. I'll kindly remind you, I found all the secret techniques and jutsu passed down through the Leaf's clans within the Foundation. Even the leaders of the Inoshikacho clans couldn't help but frown at this. For clans like theirs, which don't possess KK Genkai, the secret techniques handed down by their ancestors are the foundation of their survival. This is something they absolutely cannot allow outsiders to tamper with. Patrol and Anbu members from clans saw the reaction of the Inoshikacho leaders and fell silent. Could it really be true? Shun couldn't help but furrow his brows and made a silent decision in his heart. This matter must be reported to the clan head. Naturally, he wasn't the only one thinking this. Seeing everyone's reactions, Kaito satisfactorily curled his lips. Tsunade, noticing the reaction of the crowd, couldn't help but feel a tremendous headache. This was the biggest crisis she had faced as the Hokage. If not handled properly, it could even lead to the Leaf falling apart. Damn it. Tsunade couldn't help but glare fiercely at Denzo Shimura's corpse again. This old man, daring to tamper with my grandfather's remains. And that bastard Orochimaru. It turns out he was in cahoots with this old man from the start. However, no matter how angry she felt inside, she knew she had to deal with the current situation of the Uchiha invasion first. I said it. This is the Leaf's own affair, she declared firmly, stepping forward. No matter what grievances exist between Denzo and the Uchiha, they should have been brought to my attention as the Hokage first, not by sneaking around like you did. A powerful surge of chakra burst from her body, and she clenched her fists, saying word by word. As the Hokage, I will never tolerate anyone invading our village. Feeling the Hokage's powerful aura and resolute will, the ninjas standing behind her were visibly moved. For a moment, all the Leaf ninjas were ready for battle, just waiting for Tsunoda's command to attack the invading Uchiha group. Are we still going to fight? Kaito seemed troubled as he furrowed his brow. It really can't be helped. Snap. Behind him, Izuna raised his hand and slapped the back of his head, urging. Stop messing around. Alright. Kaito reluctantly agreed, then raised his voice to the Leaf ninjas on the ground. Then let me show you something nice. Then, as he captured everyone's attention at that moment, his eyes suddenly turned red, and a pentagram appeared in his pupils. This is not good. That's a high-level Sharingan. Several experienced Jonin immediately realized. But it was already too late. Jiken no Hana. Countless fluttering cherry blossoms swept in, brushing past everyone. All they saw were the cherry blossoms falling, and in the blink of an eye, they lost track of the enemies. They're already higher up. Kakashi's voice rang out. Everyone quickly looked up, just in time to see the giant owl flying high into the sky, out of their attack range. What just happened, Kakashi? Might Guy was somewhat confused. Was that a space-time ninjutsu? No, it wasn't space-time ninjutsu. Kakashi said, his tone somewhat grave. My Sharingan barely caught their movement trajectory, but the speed was unnaturally fast. High above, Izuna also curiously asked. What just happened? Their reaction seemed to slow down. This is a dojutsu born from my left eye, Jiken no Hana. Kaito touched his left eye. It's a special genjutsu that directly affects the target's perception of time. So, in their perception, time sped up just now? Izuna said, understanding. Exactly. Kaito smiled confidently. Jiken no Hana of the left eye makes the perception of time speed up, while the right eye's Jibaku does the opposite, making the perception of time slow down. Quite a capability. Izuna praised. Kaito looked down at the Leaf ninjas on the ground, forming hand seals. Now I'll give them one last gift. Chapter 51, Scatter. Kakashi Sharingan detected Kaito's movements, and he loudly alerted his companions. Hearing the warning, the ninjas thought an attack was coming from above and quickly dispersed, creating some distance between them in the blink of an eye. However, no attack came. The group looked around suspiciously, and eventually, they noticed something happening with Denzo Shimura's corpse. They saw the bandages wrapped around his right arm suddenly turn into shredded paper and fall off, revealing a ghastly pale arm. The skin on the arm was wrinkled in concentric circles, with dried blood spots at the centers, and a vague human face protruded from the upper arm, making it a gruesome sight. Tsunoda immediately recognized that the arm was full of modifications. She didn't understand why Kaito was exposing it in front of everyone. Now you all don't understand, do you? Kaito's taunting voice came from afar. You'll all understand soon. As he spoke, new movements occurred in Denzo's right arm. First, small twigs emerged from the skin and quickly grew larger. The large branches continued to split into smaller ones, and in an instant, they grew into a towering tree that enveloped Denzo's corpse at its roots. Wood style. Someone couldn't help but blurt out. Yes, your advisor Denzo had transplanted wood-style cells into his own body. Kaito's pleased voice came through. Do you want to guess where those cells came from? And how many people were sacrificed for these results? This revelation truly stirred things up, and Kakashi couldn't help but raise his hand to his forehead. He was aware of Denzo's wood-style experiments. In fact, the survivor known as Yamato was someone he had rescued from root. But such matters were better not widely disseminated, as they could potentially disrupt the unity and stability of the leaf. It was uncertain how the Hokage would view this, especially since Tsunoda was known for her fiery temper. He discreetly observed Tsunoda's current expression. Sure enough, veins popped on Tsunoda's forehead, and she clenched her fists so tightly that she seemed ready to explode. Damn it. It was unclear whether Tsunoda was cursing Denzo Shimura for his heinous deeds or cursing Kaito Uchiha for meddling and exposing them. She finally couldn't contain her temper any longer and punched the ground. Boom. With Tsunoda's furious punch, the area immediately became chaotic, with rocks flying and trees falling, and several deep cracks appeared on the ground beneath her feet. The leaf ninjas nearby were drenched in cold sweat and quickly scattered to avoid being caught in the aftermath. High above, Kaito Uchiha watched the chaotic scene below and couldn't help but be impressed. Such a fierce punch, worthy of the granddaughter of Hashirama Senju, Lady Tsunoda. In this regard, she has even surpassed Hashirama. Izuna also appeared surprised. It's a pity she didn't inherit her grandfather's KK Genkai. Beside them, Chiri commented. I actually quite admire Tsunoda. Although her combat abilities may not compare with the first Hokage, she has indeed forged her own path in medical ninjutsu. The conversation between the three was not deliberately lowered, so some of the ninjas below with keen senses overheard it. Thank you for your compliments. Tsunoda, having vented her anger with that punch, had calmed down considerably, though her words still carried a bite. You think you can just stir up the village and walk away? Well, the last time we met, you clearly said you wouldn't interfere with Sasuke's choices, and now here you are talking about the Uchiha clan leaving the leaf. Kakashi also stepped forward and spoke. That seems rather contradictory, doesn't it, Kaido? I still keep my word. Kaido laughed. No matter what Sasuke chooses in the future, I won't interfere. But if he chooses to return to the leaf, he can only represent himself. However, Kaito believed that as long as he was around, Sasuke would likely not want to return to the leaf. Individuals and clans are different concepts. He looked down over the entire Leaf village and spoke calmly. The relationship between the Uchiha clan and the Leaf's leadership has been complicated since the village was founded. There's no need to force us to stay together any longer. Besides, there aren't many of us Uchihas left. That's just wishful thinking on your part. Tsunoda stated decisively. Even though she knew the Uchiha clan was practically extinct, she knew she couldn't agree to Kaito's terms. Under no circumstances could she allow a precedent to be set for a clan to secede from the village. Kaito, you have never been an active ninja of the Leaf and cannot speak for the Uchiha of the Leaf. She continued to refute Kaido's claims. Say what you will. Kaido shrugged indifferently. But the Leaf will no longer have the Uchiha anyway. And he then smirked triumphantly. Since the plan is already complete, it's time for us to leave. Multiplication technique. Before Kaido could finish, Choji Akimeki from the Akimeki clan transformed into a gigantic figure, raising his massive palms to grab at them. At the same time, Kakashi and Might Guy quickly climbed up Choji's body, leaping towards the sky. Over to you, Gyur. Kaito said nonchalantly, sitting down. Gyur. No problem. Gyur's excited voice sounded as it rapidly flapped its wings, deftly weaving through Choji's grasp. At that moment, Kakashi and Might Guy, running fast along Choji's arms, came charging. Lightning Blade. Leaf Great Whirlwind. Gyur. Facing the pincer attack, Gyur's throat emitted a series of sharp cries as its iron claws flashed out with a gust of wind towards the two men. Kakashi and Might Guy, seeing the sharp wind-bladed claws coming at them, quickly halted their charge and stepped back. Gyur swung its claws, sending the wind blades flying, then suddenly spread its wings and soared higher, pulling away from the two. Choji. Kakashi dodged the wind blades, glanced back at Choji, signaled a few hand signs, and then he and Might Guy each landed on one of his palms. I understand. Choji's voice boomed like distant thunder. He lifted his palms and forcefully hurled the two ninjas towards Kaido's group. Here we go again. Kaido remarked to Gyur. Need a hand? Not at all. Gyur's large, golden eyes suddenly brightened, and just as the two were close, those eyes emitted a blinding light like the sun. Caught off guard by the intense light, Kakashi and Might Guy were momentarily blinded, only able to attack by inertia. Gyur seized this opportunity to descend a bit to dodge their attacks and then flapped its wings to rise even higher. Let's go. Kaido patted Gyur's feathers, looked back towards the Uchiha residential area for a moment. No need to entangle with them anymore. All right. Gyur replied somewhat reluctantly, and then flew up into the higher sky. Below them, Choji had already caught the falling pair and carefully set them down on the ground. Chapter 52, Are you guys okay? Kakashi, Guy. Tsunoda quickly inquired about their condition, having seen the owl suddenly emit a golden light and worried that the two might have been affected by some special dujutsu. It's nothing, just a blast of intense light. Kakashi, covering his eyes with his hand, said calmly. I should recover quickly. Absolutely fine. Might Guy, forcibly keeping his eyes open despite uncontrollable tears streaming down, flashed a bright smile and gave his usual thumbs up. Tsunoda looked up at the owl, now a mere speck in the sky, clenched her fist, turned around, and faced the surrounding Leaf ninjas. After taking a deep breath to calm herself down, she began issuing orders directly. Guy, notify Kiranai's teammate and your Team 3 to track them down together. Find their base, remember to keep your distance, and try to avoid combat. Yes. Kakashi, notify Anbu Team 1 and Team 2. You will lead and command them to investigate the root base, take care of any surviving root members, and collect all documents. Yes. You two can go ahead. Yes, Lady Hokage. Kakashi and Might Guy bowed and then vanished from the spot. Shikaku, notify all active Jonin and clan heads. There will be a meeting at the Hokage building at 7 p.m. tonight. Yes. Shun, lead your patrol team to the Uchiha residential area to search for any clues they might have left behind. Yes. That's it, everyone move out. The rest follow me. After finishing her instructions, Tsunade walked towards the Hokage building. Once everyone had dispersed with clear objectives, the forest returned to tranquility. Hey, found it! A figure, White Zetsu, emerged from the trunk of a nearby tree, cracked a smile, and then twisted back into the soil. As expected. High above, Kaido also chuckled. The last journey through the dream realm must have truly awakened White Zetsu's vigilance and murderous intent. It looks like someone will come to assassinate us soon. Chiri adjusted her wind-tousled hair and said, "We have all the intelligence on the members of the Akatsuki organization, but we just don't know who will show up when the time comes. The most likely scenario is that they will deploy the Rinnegan, especially since you easily defeated Itachi Uchiha before." Izuna caressed his long blade. "But they probably don't expect that we've also got the information about the Rinnegan through our brother. Are stronger enemies going to appear?" Gyor's voice was still somewhat excited. "I want to show off this time too. Who knows? Let's just get ready and wait," Kaido replied. Kaido then took off the small paper figure pinned to his lapel and crunched it in his hand, his laugh turning sinister. "Hey, almost forgot about this guy." Izuna glanced at it with distaste. "You should just send that thing back to the Pure Land quickly." "No, I have a better idea." Kaido placed the small paper figure into his pocket, quickly folded a piece of paper into an origami crane, and then pinned the paper figure to it. With a series of hand seals, the origami crane carrying the small paper figure took flight. "I'll let Denzo quietly return to the leaf." His face showed clear malice. That way he can see for himself how his reputation falls apart after his death. Without concerning himself with how the soul trapped in the paper figure might react, he sent the origami crane flying. What a pointless trick. Izuna said of Kaido's actions, much like an adult watching a child's mischief. "Alright, Kaido." Chiri spoke up. "We better choose our next battlefield and make some strategic preparations." "I understand, Chiri-senpai." At 5 o'clock in the afternoon, Kakashi arrived at the Hokage's office. He placed the sealed scroll on Tsunade's desk and reported. "Lady Tsunade, all documents from the Root organization have been collected, and the surviving members have been handed over to the interrogation department." "Thank you, Kakashi." Tsunade took the sealed scroll into her hands. "How were the casualties within Root?" "Most were administrative personnel, medical ninjas, and security staff left at the base, totaling 37 people." Kakashi reported accurately. "Including advisor Denzo and his 2 guards, True Naburame and Fu Yamanaka." "I understand, go rest now. Come back at 6 for the meeting." Tsunade looked down at the scroll in her hands and waved Kakashi off. "I'll take my leave then." Kakashi turned to walk towards the door. Just then, the office door was suddenly pushed open, and a young man with a dog entered. "Lady Hokage, Shun and Yuzuka reporting." "Shun is here." Tsunade looked up, placing the scroll she was holding back on the desk. "Did you find anything?" "Yes, Lady Hokage." Shun nodded affirmatively. "Kakashi, don't leave yet, stay and listen." Tsunade tapped her finger on the desk. "Go ahead, Shun." "What did you find?" Shun glanced at Kakashi, who had turned around to stand beside him, and began to report. "Lady Hokage, Kakashi-senpai, our team found 2 anomalies. One is a destroyed underground chamber in the Naka Shrine, and the other is the Uchiha clan cemetery, which has been sealed off by a barrier preventing entry, TSK." Tsunade pinched the bridge of her nose. The Naka Shrine has always belonged to the Uchiha clan. The sudden appearance of an underground chamber must be hiding some secrets. And should I be thankful they didn't relocate all the graves? Lady Tsunade. Shizune suddenly pushed the door open and came in. She was slightly out of breath as she spoke. "All the Uchiha clan's archives in the library have been irreparably destroyed." "Were only the Uchiha clan's archives damaged?" Tsunade tapped the desk again. "What about the other archives?" "The other archives appear to have been touched, but they are still intact," Shizune replied. "Those guys." Tsunade's expression was complex as she turned her gaze to Kakashi, asking, "Kakashi, what do you think?" "On one hand, they completely separate the Uchiha from the leaf, and on the other, they don't wish to become outright enemies with the leaf," Kakashi said. "Kaido must have considered the future." "Is that so? I understand," Tsunade said. "It seems that in his plans for the future, the Uchiha clan will not join any village." Kakashi nodded. "That's what I think, too, but I wonder how he plans to ensure the clan's survival and development." Tsunade waved her hand dismissively. The destroyed archives were the property of the Uchiha clan, so consider it returning to its rightful owner. As for the other archives... Damn. Tsunade slapped the table, still somewhat unwilling to let it go. She could not let other villages know that they had a large number of archives, and she must secretly warn Kaido to prevent him from trading those archives with other villages. "Alright, you all can go now," she said, visibly tired, waving her hand dismissively. Chapter 53. Once she was alone in the office, Tsunade picked up the sealed scroll that Kakashi had handed over and spread it out on the floor, releasing the seal. Looking at the half-room full of various paper documents, she immediately felt a headache coming on. Fortunately, Kakashi had already sorted these items, so Tsunade picked up an experimental record and started reading. With her extensive medical experience, she was able to go through the material quickly, but her expression darkened as she read, and she eventually couldn't help but throw the document onto the floor. Damnable old man. She took a deep breath, turned around, and picked up a scroll of mission records. Overall, Denzo had made significant contributions to the Leaf, but he had also engaged in many secret activities for his personal gain. As an experienced ninja who had often served as a commander in the ninja wars, Tsunade could see right through these actions. More curses aimed at Denzo slipped out unintentionally. Under the eaves outside the office window, a tiny paper figure was hidden in a crevice. After Denzo's death, he had been summoned by Kaido and imprisoned within the paper figure. In this state, he could perceive everything around him but was utterly unable to make any sound. How despicable. Curse those Uchihas. Obirama was right, the Uchiha are inherently evil. And curse you, Tsunade. How dare you insult me? Everything I did was for the Leaf, and I have no regrets. Lady Tsunade, it's almost time for the meeting. The office door opened again, and Shizune walked in to remind her. I know. Tsunade stood up and instructed. Shizune, take a few clerks and organize all the documents related to ninjutsu and secret techniques. Then sort out the documents that belong to the various clans and bring them to the meeting room. Yes, Lady Hokage. In the meeting room, all the active jonin and clan heads who were still in the village had already taken their seats. Though the room was full, everyone kept silent, making it unusually quiet. The faces of the clan heads were grim, seemingly worried about something. Since the third Hokage's administration, the Leaf had begun to comprehensively curb the development of large and medium-sized ninja clans, instead promoting smaller ninja clans and ninjas of civilian origin. They had all witnessed this, but they weren't overly anxious because they believed that their unique ninjutsu and secret techniques made them irreplaceable. Now, however, all the clan archives were in the hands of the Hokage. Would she use these to secretly train her own loyalists? This could mean that their clan members might lose their standing in the village. Only Hayashi Hyuga, the head of the Hyuga clan, remained composed. As the possessor of the Byakugan, a bloodline limit, he had no such worries. But knowing the fate of the Uchiha clan, he held even more respect for the Hyuga clan's traditions and the caged bird system. Kakashi, the last of the Hatake clan, also sat among the clan heads, looking somewhat out of place. Is everyone here? Tsunade pushed open the door of the meeting room and strode in. Lady Hokage. Everyone stood up until Tsunade took her seat at the head of the table, then they sat down again. Where are the advisors, Koharu and Hamura? Tsunade asked, not seeing the two who were usually the most eager to attend meetings. Lady Hokage. Shikakunara stood up. Both advisors said they were unwell and couldn't come today, so everything is up to you. Tsunade clenched her teeth to hold back from cursing out loud. Damn those crafty old foxes. Always there for the benefits but hiding whenever there's trouble, always dragging their feet. Being Hokage is so hard. Shikaku, seeing Tsunade's expression, could guess what she was thinking. He was sure the advisors were genuinely unwell, and he suspected that the Uchiha were behind it, but he didn't speak up. After all, it was better not to get involved in such matters. Everyone should already be aware of what happened this morning. Tsunade calmed herself and went straight to the point. The intrusion by Kaito Uchiha and others has revealed some issues in the Leaf. The purpose of this meeting is to discuss and find solutions together. Everyone, please share your thoughts. Lady Hokage. The hot-tempered clan head of the Inuzuka clan spoke up first. Is what Kaito said true? Did Denzo secretly steal our secret techniques? It's true. Tsunade admitted with some difficulty. Given the current situation, there was no way to gloss over it anymore. For a moment, all the clan heads in the room furrowed their brows and exchanged looks. Denzo had done many unpopular things in the past, such as forcing their clan members to serve in the root organization, but because of the underlying political investments, they hadn't said much. Moreover, they all understood Denzo's relationship with the third Hokage and didn't want to offend him too much. But this time it was different. The theft of their clan's inherited ninjutsu and secret techniques undoubtedly crossed a line. Our secret techniques must be reclaimed, declared the Inuzuka clan head. That's a red line. The other clan heads nodded in agreement. No problem. Tsunade agreed. There are too many seized documents still being sorted, and they will be distributed shortly. Thank you, Lady Hokage. Everyone knew that just returning the seized archives wasn't really meaningful. Who knew if copies hadn't been made in secret? But this was a necessary formality, at least showing the Hokage's stance. As the Hokage, Tsunade had no choice but to patiently negotiate with everyone, make some compromises, and calm them down. The meeting continued until early in the morning and only ended when most were somewhat satisfied. Exhausted, Tsunade dragged herself back to her office and collapsed weakly on the sofa. "You worked hard, Lady Tsunade." Shizune came over and placed some food on the coffee table. "Please eat something. I want to drink." Tsunade glanced at the food on the table and protested petulantly. "Yes." Shizune was somewhat troubled, but unable to contradict Tsunade's wishes, she headed out. "Please wait a moment, Lady Hokage, I'll go buy some alcohol." Tsunade waved her hand dismissively, her gaze drifting out the window to the Hokage rock where the face of Hashirama Senju was carved, and she murmured softly. "The Uchiha clan has now completely disappeared from the leaf. You must be disappointed, grandfather. Just what will become of the Uchiha clan now?" Under the quiet moonlight, all was silent, with no one to answer her question. Chapter 54, In the deep night, Kaito was still awake, looking through the documents pilfered from Hidden Leaf Village by the light of the campfire. Setting down the scroll in his hands, he expressed his frustration. "I always feel that there's something off about the content on the stone tablet at the Naka Shrine, but I can't quite figure it out." "Don't overthink it, Kaito." Chiri added more wood to the fire. "You should rest up and conserve your strength for the battles that might break out at any moment." "Thank you, Chiri-sama." Kaito stretched languidly. "I'll take a nap now." Unlike Izuna and Chiri, Kaito's body, being non-human, wasn't affected by the temperature, but he knew Chiri was looking after him by keeping the fire going. Though Kaito seemed somewhat reluctant on the surface, he deeply relied on Chiri in his heart. Unlike his sister, Mikoto, who was always a peer, Chiri appeared as an adult figure to the young Kaito, fulfilling his yearning for a maternal figure. Over the years, only Chiri had always been by his side. As a child, it was Chiri who comforted and encouraged him, helping him to develop strong self-confidence and grow fearlessly, even when he was powerless. Later, she accompanied him to the great mountains, giving him a tremendous sense of security in a completely unfamiliar environment. Their relationship, as Chiri said, had become like that of mother and son. Thinking this, Kaito smiled and said to Chiri and Izuna, "Then I'll leave the night watch to you, Chiri-sama, Izuna-senpai." The young man with black hair and eyes smiled genuinely, his features, lit by the firelight, seemed to easily touch one's heart. Chiri felt a complex emotion watching the boy she had seen grow up. She smiled warmly and said softly, "Good night, Kaito." "Humphrey, don't spoil him too much, Chiri," Izuna remarked with a hint of annoyance, waving Kaito off. "Get some rest now. We're up against strong enemies, and we can't afford to protect you all the time." Kaito lay in his tent with his eyes closed, not falling asleep immediately as he mentally prepared for the upcoming battle. If their assailants were indeed the likes of Nagato with his Rinnegan, they were in for a fierce fight. Though all preparations and plans for battle were in place, Kaito, being cautious, ran through the possible scenarios in his mind several times to ensure no details were overlooked. Outside the tent, Izuna spoke softly to Chiri about old times during the Warring States period, and with a smile on his lips, Kaito eventually drifted off to sleep to the sound of distant tales. Meanwhile, a paper crane previously released by Kaito was now silently gliding through the void, arriving in a cave located somewhere unknown, quietly landing in the hands of Itachi Uchiha, who was meditating. Startled by the sudden arrival, Itachi looked down at the paper crane in his hands, silently tucked it into his sleeve, and stood up to walk outside the cave. "Mr. Itachi?" Kisame, sitting across the room, also opened his eyes alertly. "What's the matter?" "It's nothing, continue your rest," Itachi replied without stopping, heading straight out of the cave. Alone in the cave, Kisame chuckled softly to himself. "Hey, is Mr. Itachi just stepping out, or is there something he's keeping from me?" Meanwhile, Itachi sat on a large rock outside, pulled out the paper crane from his sleeve, and began to unfold it under the moonlight. However, the paper was blank except for a simple sketch of a 3-Tomoe Sharingan. After a moment of thought, Itachi activated his own 3-Tomoe Sharingan and looked at the drawing on the paper. Instantly, the drawing of the Sharingan seemed to come to life, and the 3-Tomoe began to spin rapidly. Itachi could feel a cool energy emanating from the drawing, inadvertently soothing the dryness in his eyes and merging with his own visual power, creating a Ganjutsu space. "Meeting again, Itachi." With a greeting, Kaito appeared before him. "What is it this time?" Itachi knew his uncle did not share his ideals and wouldn't contact him without a reason. "Just to inform you," Kaito said with a smile. "I have already gone to Hidden Leaf Village and killed Denzo, reclaiming all of the Uchiha clan's artifacts." "What are you really trying to do?" Itachi frowned. "You should know." Kaito spoke with deep meaning. Denzo had acquired Izanagi and implanted 11 Sharingan in himself, including one of Shizue Uchiha's Mangekyo. Shizue's eyes. Itachi's fists tightened involuntarily. I suppose you're aware then, Shizue was killed by Denzo in an ambush. Kaido continued. Someone has to pay for the extinction of the Uchiha clan. Because of Sister Mikoto, I spared you, but not everyone else was so fortunate. You know about Madara as well. Itachi spoke with some difficulty. Ah. Kaito nodded. I learned a lot from Denzo, and I've always told you, that guy was never Madara Uchiha. Itachi, somewhat agitated, said. But have you considered Sasuke in your actions? By killing Denzo under the Uchiha name in Hidden Leaf Village, how is Sasuke supposed to face his future? Sasuke has his own thoughts. Kaito was straightforward in front of Itachi. Unlike you, between Hidden Leaf Village and the Uchiha, Sasuke will undoubtedly choose the Uchiha. No. Sasuke must return to Hidden Leaf Village to vindicate the Uchiha. Itachi raised his voice. Hey, that's just your wishful thinking, useless. Kaito said with a pleased expression. I've already declared in front of the 5th Hokage and many Hidden Leaf Village ninjas. The Uchiha clan will completely withdraw from Hidden Leaf Village. You're staining the Uchiha name with infamy. Itachi's face changed dramatically. And you have no right to make such a decision. I do what I want. Kaido shrugged. From now on, the Uchiha will have nothing to do with Hidden Leaf Village. If you still consider yourself a Hidden Leaf Village ninja, he said coldly, then you should completely abandon your surname. Itachi's form shook slightly, his expression bitter as he looked down at his hands in silence. A piece of advice. Kaido's figure began to fade. We're about to confront the people behind Akatsuki directly. It might reveal that we know certain information during the battle, and your identity will surely be questioned, so find a way out in advance. After all, I don't want you to die by anyone's hand other than Sasuke's. Lastly, another piece of information, the man claiming to be Madara Uchiha is actually... Kaido's figure disappeared completely, leaving only his last words to echo. Obito Uchiha. After the Genjutsu dissipated, Itachi stood up in silence, remaining standing in the night wind for a long time. Inside the cave, Kisame, awakened by the continuous coughing in the wind, couldn't help but comment. It seems Itachi's health is getting worse. Chapter 55. As the morning sun rose, Kaido woke up. Good morning, Chiri-sama. He said, crawling out of his tent and rubbing his eyes. Good morning, Kaido. Come eat something. Chiri was warming up some rice balls by the fire. Thank you, Chiri-sama. Kaito walked over, picked up a rice ball, and started eating. You're welcome. Chiri replied with a gentle smile, then stood up to start packing up the tent. Good morning, Izuna-san. Kaido said after finishing his rice ball, heading to a nearby stream to wash up. Izuna-san, sitting on a rock by the stream, nodded. What are you thinking about, Izuna-san? Kaido asked curiously after shaking the water off his hands. I'm thinking about whether we should take back Brother's Rinnegan. Izuna-san remarked surprisingly. Eh? Kaito was a bit shocked. Take it back now? I know your plan. Izuna-san said with a smirk. You want to use those from Akatsuki to resurrect Kaguya, then defeat her. That's my plan. Kaido confirmed. Because even if we prevent Kaguya's resurrection prematurely, I can't be at ease, especially since that Black Zetsu is very good at hiding and would leave endless troubles. And I have even greater ambitions. He said with determination. Those goals must be accomplished by completely killing Kaguya. So you don't care about how many people will die in the process. Izuna-san stood up, placing a hand on Kaido's shoulder, and looked him in the eye coldly. You seem so gentle usually, and even your retaliation against Hidden Leaf Village was measured, but you're actually quite indifferent. Kaito smiled gently. Hey, don't say that, Izuna-san. I've observed the fate of this world through stellar movements for a long time. Those sacrifices are destined. He looked up at the sky, his voice devoid of emotion. I'm just a weak being trying to break free from fate, with no obligation to save everyone. And... Kaido whispered something in Izuna-san's ear. Ha 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 ha. Izuna-san burst out laughing, patting Kaido on the shoulder. I'm growing to appreciate you more and more, Kaido. Let me see how far you can go. Ah. A near arrogant confidence appeared on Kaido's face. Then please watch closely, Izuna-san. Kaido knew Izuna-san was testing him, but he chose to speak the truth. Because he realized that despite Izuna-san's gentle appearance, his heart was much colder compared to his brother, who seemed much more ferocious. Madara did have a gentle side, or he wouldn't have spent his lifetime seeking peace. Compared to Madara, Izuna-san was more a typical ninja. He didn't care about dreams or whether the world was at war or peace, he was only interested in tangible benefits. And if Kaido's plan succeeded, the entire Uchiha clan would gain immense benefits, which was enough to gain Izuna-san's full support. At dawn, the two Uchiha men from different generations reached a complete understanding and smiled at each other as they walked back to the camp. Just then, Gyur, who had been out foraging, finally flew back. They packed up their belongings and continued towards the land of rice fields. Caw. The call of a crow sounded. Just before noon, the enemy they had been waiting for finally appeared. Caw. Caw. It was a strange crow, about the size of the Gyur, with a long, sharp beak adorned with noticeable barbs, and it had 4 feet and wings. On its back stood 6 figures clad in black robes with red clouds, rapidly ascending towards them. Is that Pain's 6 paths? Izuna-san turned to look behind Gyur. Kaido patted Gyur's feathers and instructed softly. Gyur, speed up and lead them to the place I told you about yesterday. Gyur Gyur Gyur. Gyur let out excited calls, his broad wings stirring up the clouds. His speed suddenly increased several times, quickly gaining distance from the pursuing crow. Swoosh. A whooshing sound was heard. Kaido quickly looked back, only to see a metallic cylindrical object with a tail flame being launched from one of the figures of Pain's 6 paths, chasing rapidly towards Gyur. It's a tracking missile. I've got this. Izuna-san jumped to Gyur's tail, activated his Sharingan, and formed hand seals. Fire style, great fireball. A massive fireball erupted from his mouth, accurately intercepting the missile. Boom. The fireball and missile collided midair, causing a violent explosion that dyed half of the sky with flames. Swoosh. 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 More whooshing sounds followed, and several smaller missiles skirted around the explosion area, converging towards Gyur's position. Gyur. Gyur sensed the danger and began to attempt changing his flight direction. Don't worry, just head straight to our destination, leave the rest to us. Kaido reassured. I won't let you get hurt. Alright Gyur, but if I get hurt, I won't be helping you anymore. Gyur complained humorously. Facing the numerous missiles, Izuna-san at the tail unleashed the widest range of his fire style techniques. Fire style, majestic flame annihilation. An endless stream of flames burst from his mouth, turning into a sea of fire behind Gyur, successfully detonating all the missiles. Boom. 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 Explosions continuously sounded in the air, the intense light and rising smoke completely obstructing the view of both parties. We're almost there. Kaito said, looking ahead to a vast wilderness. Prepare to land. Almighty push. A cold voice echoed from afar, and an invisible force instantly dispersed all the fire and smoke. Caw. The 4-footed crow, studded with black rods, also sped up, quickly closing the distance between them. Universal pull. The figure of Pain at the forefront extended his hand, a massive gravitational pull was applied to Kaido and the others, pulling them towards the direction of the 4-footed crow. Gyur. Shrink. Kaido shouted, forming hand seals. Gyur. Gyur obediently shrank his size, fluttering his wings and taking cover behind Kaido. Kaido's spiritual power erupted, chains formed from this power shot out, pulling both Izuna-san and Shiri-sama to his side. Guard. Several talismans flew from his body, encircling the trio and the bird in the air, instantly forming a spherical barrier around them. Bang. Under the force of the gravitational pull, the barrier heavily collided with the sharp beak of the 4-footed crow, making a loud noise, then bouncing away. Chapter 56. Inside the rapidly moving spiritual barrier, the group struggled to stabilize themselves. Kaito urgently commanded. Gyur, enlarge and get us to the ground. Alright, just remember to block those attacks for me, Gyur. Gyur's form grew larger again, and Kaido and the others swiftly landed on his back. Getting hit passively is not my style. Kaido produced a beautifully crafted longbow in his hands and drew the bowstring aimed at the persistently pursuing crow. Spiritual power burst from his hands, forming an arrow. Spiritual arrow. The arrow of light shot out, quickly splitting into a barrage of arrows that flew towards the 6 paths of Pain, tracing blue streaks through the air. Almighty push. Pain's Deva path stretched out his hands, and an invisible repulsive force burst forth, easily deflecting all the arrows. We can't give him a chance to breathe. Kaido drew his longbow again. Fire style, Great Dragon Fire Technique. Fire style, Great Dragon Fire Technique. Izuna and Chiri, both battle-hardened ninjas, simultaneously formed seals and unleashed the same jutsu. 6 fiery dragons soared up, converging on Pain from different directions. Sealing technique, Absorption Seal. The plump-faced Pretapath of the 6 paths leaped up, extending his hands, and in an instant, absorbed all the fire. Meanwhile, another volley of arrows shot by Kaido had reached him. Sealing technique, Absorption Seal. Pretapath repeated his technique, positioning his hands towards the incoming arrows. However, this time his technique was ineffective. Hiss. An arrow of light pierced through his palm. Hiss. 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 In a blink, he and the crow beneath him were riddled with arrows, and more arrows passed through him towards the figures now behind him. Summoning jutsu. The long-haired animal path crouched down, slapped his hand on the back of the crow, and in the instant before the crow dispersed, summoned a giant stone panda that blocked all the arrows. Finally, Gira managed to bring Kaido and the others to the ground amidst this opportunity. Kaido looked up as the 6 paths of pain, under the influence of Deva Path's abilities, slowly descended, the Preta path having reverted back to his original form. You can go now, Gira. He patted Gira on the head. The upcoming battle was no longer something this little creature could partake in. I'm off then, Gira. Be careful, Kaido. Gira didn't try to act tough and shrank in size to fly away immediately. Kaido once again looked towards the 6 paths of pain in the sky. By now, he had identified the Deva path, Animal path, Azura path, and Preta path, with only the Human path and Hell path remaining. One could extract souls, and the other could summon the King of Hell, posing a significant threat to Izuna and Chiri, whose essence were soul-based. He needed to find an opportunity to eliminate them first. Kaido Uchiha, your existence interferes with the plans of the Akatsuki. Deva path declared from above, looking down at Kaido with cold eyes. In the name of God, I will eliminate you. Huh? Kaido's mouth twitched. Are you claiming to be a god? That's really terrifying. No matter what powers you possess, no matter how many allies you find. Pain landed steadily on the ground. It's all meaningless in the face of God. Begin your ugly struggle. Devapath extended his right hand. God will eventually forgive your transgression. Kaido's forehead throbbed as he clenched his teeth. Great, you've successfully angered me. Now I want to see what a god looks like when he turns into mud. Although he appeared furious, those who observed closely would notice his eyes remained calm. Mangekyo Sharingan. In that moment, Kaido and the others simultaneously activated their Mangekyo Sharingan, forming the same seals. Jiken no Hana. The pentagram rotated, and with the boost from the other 2 pairs of Mangekyo Sharingan, Kaido's Dujutsu turned into swirling cherry blossoms that enveloped the 6 paths of pain. Unquestionably, there is a qualitative gap between the Mangekyo Sharingan and the Rinnegan. Even though Nagato's eyes were not the original, the gap was not one that could be easily bridged. To ensure his Dujutsu affected pain, Kaido had developed a combination Genjutsu based on the Sharingan. Using his powerful mental strength as a catalyst, he resonated with the Sharingan of his peers, linking their powers to augment his Dujutsu significantly. Debaku in the moment he accelerated pain's perception of time, he also applied a Dujutsu that slowed down time perception to Izuna and Chiri. Both of their faces simultaneously showed purple and cherry blossom patterns as they entered Sage mode through their curse seals, then drew their long swords and vanished from sight. Swoosh! Swoosh! 2 streaks of brilliant white light from swords flashed between the 6 paths of pain, and the heads of the Human path and the Hell path were instantly sent flying into the sky. By then, 3 seconds had passed since Kaido activated the Jiken no Hana, the exact duration it could affect Pain, who possessed the Rinnegan. What's happening? From a distant tree, Obito Uchiha inquired to Nagato, who sat below the tree, his back pierced with metal rods. Nagato coldly responded. The Genjutsu affected their reaction speed. However, that Genjutsu won't work on me anymore. Humphrey, it better not. Obito continued to observe the battle. Almighty push. As their normal perception of time resumed, the remaining 4 paths of pain scattered. The Deva path then thrust out his hand, forcefully knocking Izuna and Chiri away. Both ninjas flipped in the air and drove their swords into the ground, creating deep marks. Bind. As Kaido's eyes spun with a 5-pointed star, a pentagram-shaped seal appeared beneath the feet of the Deva path. Several chains of spiritual energy emerged from the seal, wrapping around the Deva path. Bizarre arm rocket. From a distance, the Azura path extended its arm, its fist detaching from the wrist and rocketing towards Kaido with a trail of fire. Damn. Kaido dodged, causing a momentary delay in the chains, allowing the Deva path to escape the seal's range. Summoning Jutsu. The animal path slammed a palm on the ground, raising a cloud of dust as several colossal creatures emerged. A massive crab, a red 3-headed dog, a bull, and a rhinoceros. The bull and the rhinoceros pawed at the ground, charging towards Izuna and Chiri, respectively. The 3-headed dog opened its vicious jaws, lunging at Kaido. Meanwhile, the crab sprayed streams of foam towards the trio. Kaido smirked, instantly shrinking under the barrage of foam, transforming into a paper figure that disintegrated with the wind. Shortly after, another Kaido with hands in a seal appeared on the other side, summoning Izuna and Chiri to his side. Sage art, fire style, majestic flame annihilation. Izuna stepped forward, releasing a fire technique infused with natural energy. The intense flames created a sea of fire in front, burning the charging bull and rhinoceros back to their summoning realm. Water style, bubble wave. From a distance, the animal path directed the giant crab to continuously spray foam at the sea of fire. Sage art, Song of the Dragon Flame. Izuna formed seals again, and 4 fire dragons burst from the sea of fire, roaring towards the remaining 4 paths. The Deva path used Almighty Push to block the Song of the Dragon Flame, while the other 3 paths each dodged. Fine. Seeing the distance between them widen, Kaido's eyes spun with the 5-pointed star once more. The seal appeared, chains emerged, and the animal path was thoroughly bound. Chapter 57. In a dim forest, a team of ninjas wearing the Leaf Village headbands swiftly moved through the trees. My bugs are restless. The young boy wearing sunglasses suddenly stopped, reaching out to catch a small black bug that flew towards him. Something seems to have happened ahead. Neji, Hinata. Might Guy, who was at the front of the group, looked back at the young boy and girl with Byakugan. I understand. Hi. Neji Hyuga and Hinata Hyuga simultaneously formed hand signs, and the veins around their eyes bulged ominously. Byakugan. About 1 kilometer ahead, there are 7 people engaged in battle, and there are 2 bodies on the ground. Neji's calm voice reported. One group of 3 has the Sharingan and is using formidable fire-style techniques, they're likely our mission targets. Hinata added quietly. The others are wearing robes with cloud patterns. Such terrifying chakra. Robes with cloud patterns. Another Jonin in the team, Kurenai Yui, frowned and exchanged a grave look with Might Guy. It seems to be the Akatsuki organization that Itachi Uchiha belongs to. What is Akatsuki, Miss Kurenai? A young boy with a small white dog on his head looked puzzledly at Kurenai. Should we continue to approach? It's best not to get closer. The young bug user said. If you ask why, my bugs tell me that we're not yet qualified to participate in such a level of battle. Shino, you're such a buzzkill. Kiba in Yuzuka, holding the small dog, Akamaru, in his arms, complained. Right, Akamaru? Woof. Let's move forward, Mr. Guy. Rock Lee, a young boy with thick eyebrows and round eyes like Might Guy, clenched his fists enthusiastically. The mission of youth does not allow failure. Beside him, a girl with her hair in buns looked at him with exasperation. Really, Lee? Didn't you hear what Shino said about the danger? 10. Mr. Guy has said that youth does not allow for retreat. Let's all do our best. Rock Lee flashed a grin similar to Might Guy's, giving Tenton a thumbs up. No, this is different, Lee. Might Guy placed his hands on his hips, seriously addressing the young ninjas. This mission is a reconnaissance mission. The Hokage has instructed us to avoid combat as much as possible. Oh. Rock Lee's eyes sparkled as he nodded continuously. Besides, those formidable enemies are not something even Guy and I can be sure to handle. Kurenai added. Let alone you gain in. We will continue to maintain distance. Starting now, Neji and Hinata will take turns using the Byakugan to scout. Might Guy gave the command. Yes. Strange. Neji suddenly spoke up with surprise in his voice. That person clearly has no chakra, but why? What is that dreadful feeling? Meanwhile, at the site of the battle between Kaido and the 6 paths of pain. After binding the animal path, Kaido fell into a quiet state, his eyes closed as he maintained his hand seal posture, seemingly brewing something. On the other side, seeing the animal path bound by Kaido's technique, the nearby Azura path suddenly shed its robe and revealed its bizarre 6-armed body. He then bent down, and a wide, long serrated blade like a serpent's tongue emerged from his back, slicing towards the spiritual chains binding the animal path. Crack, crack, crack. The grating sound of cutting echoed as the serrated blade moved across the chains, sparking tiny flames, but the chains remained intact. At the same time, the Preta path quickly rushed in front of the sea of fire unleashed by Izuna, extending his hands. Sealing Jutsu, Absorption Seal. The flames were rapidly absorbed by his hands, the burning area gradually diminishing, and with the foam attack from the summoned crab spirit, it soon neared extinction. Failing to rescue the animal path, the Azura path's bald head split into several sections, revealing its mechanical interior. Head laser cannon. A blinding light flashed from the holes in his head, casting a beam of blue light toward the 3 members of the Uchiha group. Similarly, the red 3-headed dog summoned by the animal path, not to be outdone, roared with its 3 huge mouths, saliva dripping continuously. It first crouched low, then with the laser cannon, it charged toward them. The laser cannon arrived too quickly, reaching Kaido in an instant. Facing the laser at close range, Kaido remained motionless, eyes closed, hands kept in a seal, making no move to react. Fortunately, the other 2 were slowed significantly by Kaido's Sharingan technique Jiken no Hana, allowing Izuna to impulsively dash forward, blocking the others. Susanoo. A translucent skeleton covered in deep purple patterns emerged from the ground, enveloping the three, blocking the laser explosion. The massive skeleton raised its head in a silent roar and then extended its arms. The left hand opened wide, grabbing at the Pretapath who had absorbed the firestorm. At that moment,